With her hands being tied and a rope wrapped around her mouth, the crowd kept yelling at the evil woman about to be executed for the sin of deceiving the whole nation. I'm sorry, I thought this was chapter 1? Did we miss a few chapters before this? A woman with long, silky golden hair warns the Grand Duke to keep his distance from Kiera Parvis, his own legitimate daughter. Kiera, desperate to escape, spots her older sister, Cosette, seemingly involved in her fate. Amidst the deafening screams of the crowd, blood splatters everywhere as she glances back one final time at Cosette and their father. This is one bloody start. On the day the Grand Duke received his title, a prophecy was revealed, foretelling a crisis for the continent and the emergence of a saintess, the sole daughter of the guardians of the empire. Chosen by the great water goddess Beatrice, the Parvis family, known for their water spirit lineage, was destined to bring rain to the barren land cursed by the devil once the daughter comes of age. Kiera, the saintess, was Ludwig Parvis's firstborn and grew up yearning for her father's love, having lost her mother at a young age. Poor Kiera. Despite her modest and sincere nature, Kiera's father remained indifferent to her efforts to gain his attention. Her desperation led her to show him her achievements and even staged an accident, hoping for his concern, but to no avail. What a horrible father! No one deserves this. For 18 years, Kiera's life revolved around seeking her father's validation, until the arrival of Cosette, the daughter of the former Grand Duchess, and the eldest daughter of the Grand Duke, changed everything. What matters to Ludwig is to know who his real child is, so he lets Cosette inside the palace to prove herself. But to Kiera, everything around her changed after that. Even the servants can tell the difference between them. Cosette is a kind person, while Kiera isn't approachable because she's so dignified. But more than anything, Cosette resembles the Grand Duke more than Kiera does. I feel like some of these people didn't listen to their biology classes about genetics and all. Outside, Kiera keeps swinging her sword out of frustration that Cosette just suddenly appears and claims that she's blood-related. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? A face that looks just like her father? It's indeed suspicious that she grew up as a commoner as well. But Kiera is so confident that she is the real daughter because all the women of House Parvis are born with the power of only one saintess. Maybe Cosette is a witch who can shapeshift? We need to find out what's her deal. It means that one is a fake and will bring disaster to the kingdom, and the only way to prove that is whoever can contact the spirits first. If Cosette can do this first, then Kiera will die as a fake. Cosette offered Cosmos flowers, hoping to befriend Kiera, but her cold reception made her intentions clear. Undeterred, Cosette asked if Kiera's hostility stemmed from not being Ludwig Parvis's true daughter, as her mother had been framed and driven away for deceiving him into becoming the Grand Duchess. Despite the revelation, Cosette encouraged Kiera not to shoulder guilt for her mother's deeds. Kiera, unable to contain her anger, swung her sword as a warning against insulting her mother further, hinting at severe consequences. Ugh, this girl is horrible. My patience just cannot. Later that day, Ludwig remembers the time when the Grand Duchess wanted to name their child Christian if it's a boy and Cosette if it's a girl. He cannot decide quickly about Cosette, but her face really resembles his. In her father's office, she tries to argue that she can't let Cosette accuse her mother of adultery. But Ludwig seems not to be on her side, and soon, like he ever was, he will know if it is just an accusation or the truth. Kiera leaves the room, remembering how her mother assured her that she's Ludwig's one and only nymph. She falls to her knees, crying how her father doubts about her legitimacy. Seriously, Ludwig, she's trying her best to be noticed, but Cosette gets all the credit without breaking a sweat? You are one good example of a terrible father. Cosette suddenly appears, provoking Kiera once more. Kiera forcefully pushes her hand away, warning her not to touch. As she catches her breath, Kiera questions why Cosette is wandering the main building. Cosette implies it shouldn't be surprising, as she is Parvis's eldest daughter, with Ludwig's permission to access the third floor alongside Kiera. The servants accidentally eavesdrop on Deputy General Joseph and Kiera discussing political matters. Amused, they mock Kiera as if she passed a knight entrance exam and gained approval. Despite tradition dictating Parvis children become knights at 18, serving as leaders for 3 years, Kiera acts like a true knight, meddling in everything. They sympathize with Joseph, recognizing his talent and skills, and feel sorry for him as Kiera often takes authority despite his role as deputy general. Honestly, can't Kiera take a break with these kinds of people? They are for real the worst bunch. Mina, one of the servants, complains about how Kiera commands them to do this and to do that. She even argues that Kiera is a fake child. Unfortunately, Kiera hears this, and so the other servants warn her to stop. But well, she wants trouble and points out that Kiera is not the daughter of the Grand Duke. Where did she get the audacity to insult the lady of the house? Without a second thought, Kiera slaps her and orders the guards to whip her. Ha! Well deserved. That evening, Kiera prepares to greet her father, but Cosette beats her to it, pleading with Ludwig not to dismiss her maid. Kiera tries to explain to her father that Mina had insulted her in the past, but he remains skeptical and asks the other servants for their account of the incident. To Kiera's surprise, the servants claim that she was being distant and cold. She glances at Cosette, who looks pleased, despite facing her own biases and prejudices. Can someone please give our MC a true friend and loyal subject? My heart breaks for her. Ludwig asks Cosette for confirmation, and guess what? She cries while clinging to him instead. Ugh, such a drama queen. Kiera argues that it isn't true at all, but Ludwig slaps her for keeping him disappointed all the time. Ludwig, you are not hot at all. You're just hot-tempered. Kiera tries to call out to her father, but he stops her, refusing to be addressed as father. He punishes her by ordering a month of confinement in separate quarters, wanting her out of his sight. Cosette is disappointed with the lenient punishment, and Kiera almost loses her temper, but refrains from laying a hand on her, fearing further trouble. In her isolation, Kiera observes how Ludwig treats Cosette better and vows to prove her power over the spirits before Cosette can. On Cosette's birthday, she gains control of the spirits, and Beatrice obeys her commands. While some congratulate her, others accuse Kiera of deception and fear her supposed evil magic. The false accusations lead to Kiera being sentenced to death, considered a harbinger of disaster. But before the sentence is carried out, a magician casts a spell, transporting her back to her room as she struggles with chest pains. Great! Thanks, Mr. Magician! The vivid memory of her decapitation assures Kiera that it wasn't a dream. She is certain she died. As she surveys her surroundings, she wonders if this is the afterlife, but the presence of everyone as before suggests her father executed them too. Panic sets in, and she recalls her younger brother Zeke, and she hurriedly searches for him, hoping he's unharmed. Before her execution, Zeke had visited her in the cell, pleading to run away together, as he didn't want to be with those snakes either. However, Kiera refused to involve him in her escape and advised him to leave instead. Oh, they're good siblings. Kiera realizes that there are so many familiar faces, younger than she remembers. So she asks Zeke about the date. It's still the 13th of August, 1295, the year she turned 18. That's right, she returned to the past. But who did this and why? Surprising Zeke with an invitation to breakfast, Kiera notices his gloomy demeanor, reminded of her habit of leaving early to greet her father. Realizing her mistake, she decides to prioritize those who truly care about her. You go, girl. That's the right decision. In the meantime, Ludwig wakes up from a nightmare where Joseph insists that Kiera didn't deceive him intentionally and should not be executed. Regrettably, he didn't listen, and Kiera, alongside a little girl in the crowd, called out to him one last time before her head flew from the guillotine blade. I hope this will be a Ludwig lesson in a change of heart. Later that day, Ludwig's assistant notices that Kiera didn't come to greet the Grand Duke. Ludwig himself isn't in his good condition, so his assistant advises him to rest. He can't remember anything from that horrible dream, but the sadness seems like it'd tear his heart apart is still fresh, and so he orders to send a therapist to his daughter. I'm sorry, sir, but you're the one who badly needs one. In the library, Kiera realizes that this day is 2 months advanced upon Cosette's arrival in the palace. Cosette herself made it clear that Kiera was the real one, but how was she able to manifest her powers 2 years later after Zeke's birthday banquet? The Oracle predicted only one nymph, but Kiera questions whether Cosette's ability to summon Beatrice was just an illusion. Unable to unravel the mystery of her time travel, she gives up on that train of thought. Determined to investigate everything before her death sentence, she considers seeking answers from the Mage's Tower, but deems it useless. Then, her servant informs her about a therapist, even though Kiera believes she is perfectly fine. Kiera used to beg for her father to save her, and now he's sending a therapist? Nah, tell her to check him instead. On the training grounds, Kiera watches the Knight's Order application test, sitting beside Joseph. Memories of his protection, even during her final moments, flood back. She reflects on feeling inferior due to her status-based position and how she used to oppose him constantly. Now, she has something important to share with him. Wait, is it a love confession? Sorry for getting your hopes up, but Kiera is just sorry for borrowing Joseph's position. At that moment, Kiera instructs Joseph to handle the work without seeking her opinion. Later, she congratulates the successful candidates on passing the test and announces a welcome party, generously offering to cover all expenses. However, some whisper that her presence would make things tense. Joseph is prepared to confront those who speak ill, but Kiera surprises them by declaring she won't attend the party. She apologizes for her previous insensitivity and promises not to repeat it. As she leaves the grounds, the stone-hearted knights realize they had misjudged her all along. But can we blame them when Kiara's eyes look murderous? Joseph decides to go as a representative and apologize. On his way there, he's puzzled by what she said earlier. He once sensed her disapproval, but now it's as if she's transformed, shedding her previous hostility. Kiera enters Ludwig's room, expressing gratitude for the therapist he sent, but he dismisses her, urging her to write instead of wasting his time. Excuse me, sir, but Kiera is no longer a pushover like before. Addressing his concerns, she assures him that she would never interrupt him for trivial matters. She then explains her decision to stop greeting him every morning, wanting to avoid making him uncomfortable with her greed for his time, especially when he has numerous tasks at hand. However, she doesn't end there. She also reveals her intention to step down as the captain of the Knights for 2 months. That's our girl! Kiera believes that she'll eventually have to relinquish her position when Cosette arrives, so she chooses to step down voluntarily. Besides, she has various investigations to pursue. Though Ludwig initially objects, Kiera persuades him, emphasizing her exhaustion. However, one thing has been bugging Ludwig all along. Kiera didn't call him father. Serves you right for what you did, or at least what you'll do in the future. In her room, Kiera wonders if her father lived happily with his real daughter and if everyone was content with her death. Joseph interrupts, reminding her of the party later. Kiera clarifies she'll give up her position to someone with talents, not just due to tradition. This angers Joseph, who reassures her that the Knights value her leadership and training skills, which justify the custom of her bloodline. Hey, Joseph is a cutie, especially with those green eyes. Joseph also resolves the misunderstanding between the Knights and Kiera, explaining the respect for her high rank. And he sounds caring towards Kiera too. Sweet. That night, Kiera realizes she's acknowledged despite her father's lack of appreciation. She attends the party, warmly welcomed by everyone. At the party, Arthur encourages Kiera to chug a mug of beer. Despite their delight in seeing their captain having fun, Kiera announces she's no longer their captain. Emotions surface, but everyone wishes her well and promises to wait for her return. Under the influence of alcohol, Kiera becomes emotional and realizes they are discussing the indifferent Grand Duke. The alcohol loosens her tongue, and she admits her frustration at her father's lack of concern, even when she intentionally rolled down the stairs. The Knights are upset to hear this and advise her to have fun with them instead of studying all the time. This is actually typical, even in the real world. Children trying to meet their parents' standards and do all kinds of shenanigans just to get their loving attention, but to no avail. Kiera agrees and lets out a genuine laugh. She didn't think it'd be so fun. Just let it all out, girl. We're here for you. When Raina brings her back to the mansion, Joseph kicks Arthur's foot when he's about to ask if he also wanted to have time with Kiera. Of course, he's still in denial. Just leave the man be, Arthur. Joseph discovers Kiera's unhappiness with her father, and he learns that others feel the same way. Meanwhile, Arthur realizes Kiera's true nature, not scary and stiff, but rather soft and kind of cute. Joseph cautions him to be respectful to their captain, but he also agrees with Arthur's observation. With a hangover, Kiera asks Rose to clear her afternoon schedule. As Rose brushes her hair, Kiera ponders what Rose would do if she could live as she pleases. Rose reveals her desire to go on a journey, and Kiera immediately approves, offering to cover her expenses. Wow, that's every employee's dream. This moment makes Kiera realize that work isn't everything. She wonders if she wasn't born in the Parvis family, would her life be different? Following Rose's recommendation, Kiera explores books about the lives of noble ladies. In the garden, she discreetly questions if anyone else can see spirits, trying not to raise suspicion. Then, the rumors of her being a boring loner with no close friends come to mind. Suddenly, Arthur arrives with honey water from Joseph to help with her hangover. As he prepares to leave, she seeks advice on connecting with people beyond the mansion. Arthur suggests she smile more, as her demeanor can be scary, similar to the Duke. See? No DNA test needed! Sorry, Cosette. After that, Arthur is of a big help for giving her a lot of tips to work on. We love supportive ones like Arthur, right guys? Later that evening, Rose brings the recommended books but advises Kiera not to read before sleeping, warning of staying awake all night. Ignoring Rose's advice, Kiera begins reading about Stella and the Count Graham meeting in the summer garden. To her surprise, the story takes an unexpected turn, where the Count's hand slides up in her dress and you know what comes after. We'd like to see that too, but with Kieho's version. And in a moment of panic, she throws the book on the floor, her face turning red. Us too. In her defense, Kiera admits she's not accustomed to reading such books, yet she finds herself staying awake till morning. When Rose asks her if she likes the book, Kiera can't openly show her approval, particularly for that part. Curious, Rose hurries to the servants' room to inquire about the side story of Lady Stella's exhilarating summer vacation. The other servants are astonished to discover that Kiera reads romance novels instead of the Bible or academic books, not to mention the steamy content of the book. Rose defends her that she's just curious about the lives of regular nobles. Well, you can't be sure about that, Rose. In the library, Kiera searches for records about spirits. However, even House Parvis, the descendants of spirit arts, knows little, having agreed not to delve into the power bestowed by the goddess. Consequently, there are scarce materials on the subject. Later, Kiera overhears the servants discussing the romance novel she read. She wants to join the conversation, but she's mindful of maintaining her dignity. As she discreetly listens, one of the servants notices her and they quickly apologize and leave, misunderstanding her intentions. Feeling down while walking through the hallway, Kiera encounters Rose and confesses her enjoyment of the book but couldn't admit it due to her dignity. She shares her favorite scenes with Rose, who is delighted to see her lady having fun. And yes, that's the kind of conversation she wants to experience. Ludwig prepares to ride the carriage but reminisces about Kiera, who used to send him off. Robert informs him that his daughter is occupied with researching spirits in the library. While holding his head, Ludwig wobbles, attributing it to fatigue, though he suspects it might be due to recurring nightmares. Meanwhile, Kiera gazes out of the window, feeling a tinge of jealousy as she remembers how easily Cosette interacts with others. But can we blame her if all she ever did was to impress her father? Putting her feelings aside, Kiera writes a letter to her grandfather, Marquess Simon Edinburgh, who is cunning and avaricious, seeking his support to counter potential future challenges, like history repeating itself. She plans to meet him discreetly, attending a gathering from another house. As Kiera asks Rose to bring all the invitations she received, Rose gets excited, imagining Kiera having a fateful encounter like Stella in the novel. Kiera's interest grows, and she volunteers to check the invitations herself. Shortly after, Ludwig arrives and sees Kiera visibly upset because Robert threw out all the invitations. Now calm down, Kiera. You always threw it away before. Ludwig is surprised by his daughter's interest in accepting the invitations. He reminds her that House Parvis has always maintained neutrality, being chosen to avoid useless conflicts. However, she bluntly expresses her frustration with staying in the mansion. Period. Ludwig's eyes widen at his daughter's reaction, and even the servants are terrified by her boldness towards the Grand Duke. Nonetheless, Ludwig remains composed and asks about her plans. To everyone's surprise, she mentions that she's looking for a husband, but she quickly retracts the statement, deeming it an excuse. Ludwig appears relieved by this, but Kiera questions if, as long as the house remains unharmed, he wouldn't care about her actions. Right? Ludwig turns around and leaves, but he orders Robert to report what event she attends, who she meets, and what she does. Oh, look what we have here. Possibly a concerned father? Nah. Kiera notices Arthur and Joseph talking and decides to join them. She hints about a newly discovered hobby, but feels too shy to share it outright. Arthur offers to take her to the casino, one of his hobbies that he openly shares with others. Kiera considers accepting, not wanting to hurt Arthur's feelings by declining. Oh, he's just trying to share his interest with her. Cute. So she agrees to it. Joseph volunteers to take responsibility for her safety. Arthur is so shocked because Joseph hates the casino, but the latter just tells him to keep quiet. Something's blooming within you, Joseph. We can clearly tell. Kiera suddenly realized what she had agreed to, but as long as she abstained from gambling, she was content to watch. Joseph noticed her tense fist and inquired if something was amiss. To make amends for the previous drunkenness, he offered her a tonic. Though she couldn't recall that day, he assured her that the knights had enjoyed being near her. This time, he promised it would be just as enjoyable. We hope so. In the early morning, Kiera welcomes Viscountess Shore, who will assist her in preparing for an upcoming gathering. While Lady Shore speaks, Kiera appears lost in her own thoughts. Lady Shore snaps at her, but Kiera apologizes, and Lady Shore understands, relating it to her son's similar disinterest in social gatherings due to his intense focus on studying magic. Intrigued, Kiera requests to meet Lady Shore's son, and she gladly agrees. Could meeting this son be the answer to the time travel that happened with Kiera? Descending the stairs, Kiera is approached by a hesitant servant, who hands her the book that Rose told her to give to Kiera. Two more servants join them, and Kiera seizes the opportunity to strike up a conversation, asking about the book's contents. As they discuss the plot, one of the servants mentions the upcoming gathering Kiera is set to attend. They surely get along very well with Kiera now. They continue talking about the gathering, and when they arrive at the topic of Kiera's partner for the gathering, it's when Kiera realizes that she hasn't thought of who will be her partner for that day. Suddenly, Joseph appears, saying that he has come to escort Kiera. Oh my, he looks so dashing. Can't believe you didn't cross your mind for 1 second, Kiera. We are cross with you. Arthur and Raina then appear, saying that they should go together, and Raina secretly whispers to Kiera that they will be going to the casino. As Kiera, Joseph, Arthur, and Raina are on their way out of the house, Zeke sees them, and Kiera then decides to bring him too, making Zeke beam with excitement. Such an adorable kiddo. While riding in their carriage, Zeke is taken aback to learn they're headed to a casino and vents his frustration at the knights for bringing Kiera along. Calmly, Kiera reassures him that the casino is legal and they're there merely to observe and learn about the outside world. Arriving at the casino, Kiera is captivated by the surroundings. Meanwhile, Arthur persistently encourages Zeke to play, but he stands his ground, explaining that gambling can lead to financial troubles without self-control. Way to go, Zeke! It's always a good decision not to give in to gambling. Romantic fangirl approved. Kiera then abruptly ends their conversation, saying that she wants to try the roulette, so Arthur explains to her how that game works. After playing the said game, she happily exclaims that she wants to try more and ends up gaining a lot of chips from winning. What a beginner's luck she has! During their conversation about what to do with Kiera's winning chips, a casino clerk in uniform interrupts them, delivering a message from Count Sebier. The message invites Kiera to play a high-stakes game. After reading it, Kiera declines the Count's offer, expressing her reluctance to bet large sums of money. However, she remains open to participating in smaller games. That's a good decision there, Kiera. In one of the corners of the casino, it reveals that there is a guy that's been eyeing Kiera. Who could this man be? He looks so dreamy, especially in those red clothes. The Count agrees to Kiera's condition of playing only small games. She takes a handful of chips from Raina's pouch and sets aside the rest for their meal later. They all move to the VIP room where Count Sebier warmly welcomes Kiera and proposes a poker game. Despite being unfamiliar with the game, Kiera surprisingly triumphs in her first attempt. So lucky! I guess when it rained luck, you got it all. Except for the dad part. Oops. Sorry, bad joke. After witnessing Kiera's initial victory, the Count warns her that things won't be easy anymore. True to his words, he starts winning consistently, taking all the chips she had set aside for the game. As Kiera suggests they should leave, she catches the Count hiding cards up his sleeves, revealing that he has been cheating throughout the entire game. Ugh! What a dirty player! Out of nowhere, a man emerges and swiftly subdues the Count, having him taken away. Turning to Kiera, he kneels and kisses her hand. This enigmatic stranger then extends an invitation for tea, which Kiera graciously accepts. Again, so lucky. At the casino bar, the man introduces himself as Aiden Castro, and Kiera introduces herself as Kira, hiding her noble lineage. Aiden confesses that he has been observing her since her arrival, choosing a more respectful approach instead of direct flirting. Meanwhile, Kiera's companions discreetly observe the pair from a distance. Reina warns that Aiden has a reputation for indiscriminate flirting with every woman he encounters. Okay, I take it back. He is not handsome. He is bad news. Or is he? We are kinda colorblind. After their charming encounter, Aiden invites Kiera for a weekend meal, and she joyfully accepts. When Kiera returns to her companions, they're stunned by her evident infatuation with Aiden. I mean, who wouldn't be with that face? While her friends are speechless, Kiera believes it must be fate and wonders if Aiden could be her partner for the gathering. Girl, I know he's unbelievably gorgeous, but isn't it too fast? How about our Joseph? Later, Kiera confides in Rose about her meeting with Aiden and seeks advice on planning their date as a commoner, having pretended to be just a regular girl. Rose suggests a commoner's favorite, a scenic airship ride to explore the capital. Kiera loves the idea and contemplates renting the entire airship to ensure an intimate date without any crowd. Such a romantic Kiera is. In the garden, Kiera enjoys the flowers, plucking one for herself, when Joseph approaches and calls out to her. He asks if she's going somewhere, but she replies that she's simply in a good mood. Unexpectedly, she hands the flower to Joseph and excuses herself. Stunned by her gesture, Joseph is left speechless. William and Reina soon join them, equally surprised by Kiera's radiant mood. William jokingly suggests that she may have found a lover, causing Reina to mention an upcoming date with Aiden. This revelation prompts Joseph to confirm with Reina about Aiden's reputation as a playboy, leading both Joseph and Reina to plan on intervening the date. Yes, please, protect our Kiera from that playboy Aiden. The day for the date has come. In the middle of the town, Kiera and Aiden meet each other. Aiden then kisses Kiera's hands, making her nervous. He's really good at being so flirty. No wonder our girl Kiera is head over heels for him. I mean, us too. On the other hand, Joseph, Zeke, Arthur, and Reina are spying on the two and are on their mission to protect Kiera from Aiden. Kiera and Aiden settle themselves in one of the restaurants in the capital. While Kiera is eating her meal, Aiden observes the way she acts, which baffles him since it's so natural for Kiera to act like she's from a high family and wonders who exactly Kiera is. Kiera then blushingly asks Aiden if he can make time for her next Wednesday, but Aiden tells her that he has plans already for that day, which is a book meeting with his friends. Such a liar! The truth is that he's meeting another woman that day. Aiden tries to make up for the schedule conflict by dedicating the day solely to Kiera. He asks her if she has any place in mind to go after their meal. Kiera suggests taking an airship to get a panoramic view of the capital, but Aiden dismisses the idea, citing airship schedules and distance. Unexpectedly, Kiera reveals that she already rented an airship, leaving Aiden in disbelief. As the airship arrives at the restaurant, Aiden wonders about Kiera's influence, even considering if she might be related to the Imperial family, a thought that unsettles him during the ride. You played with the wrong lady, boy. Seeing Aiden acting uneasy in the airship, Kiera checks on him, but he just explains to her that he's a bit scared being so high, to which she finds so cute, and it amuses her, making her laugh. Meanwhile, the four spies also boarded the airship, and they're stunned seeing Kiera laugh. On the other hand, Joseph can't understand his feelings seeing Kiera laugh with Aiden. Looks like our Joseph is jealous. We are too. Reina then makes a plan with them that at the upcoming gathering, they will make Kiera see Aiden's true colors. When Kiera arrives home, she ponders on the thought that she will go to the gathering alone. Just then, Joseph welcomes her arrival and nervously asks her if she will go to the gathering with him. Kiera's mood instantly brightens. She then grabs Joseph's hands and confirms what she just heard from him, to which he answers that he is sure about it. Kiera then observes that Joseph's face is getting redder and redder, and that's when she realizes that she's holding his hand, so she releases it. Blushing, Joseph is so cute. In the house, Kiera and Zeke are having tea and talking about her date with Aiden. When asked about what she likes about Aiden, she just keeps on praising his handsome appearance. She just fell for his looks, like a typical innocent young lady. Frustrated, Aiden visits the traffic management offices to inquire about the airship's rental, but the clerk refuses to disclose the information, adding to his annoyance. The idea of Kiera's potential connection to the Imperial family troubles him deeply, especially as he reflects on their past experiences. Fearing the implications, Aiden finds himself praying and hoping never to encounter her again. The next day, Duke Parvis receives a bill for the airship rental, initially thinking it was a mistake. However, his butler Robert reveals that Lady Kiera rented the airship and spent time with a man after lunch, suggesting she has taken a liking to him. Shocked, the Duke ponders if this newfound behavior is due to the man Kiera is seeing, prompting him to visit her room to ask directly. Inside Kiera's room, her servants are admiring her gown when they hear a knock on the door, and to their surprise, it's the Duke who stands outside. It's really a surprise since it's usually Kiera that goes to him. Well, the tables have turned. The Duke directly asks Kiera about the airship bill and brings up the topic of the man he heard she's seeing, suspecting it as the reason for her changed behavior. Kiera blushes but clarifies that she's not in the kind of relationship he presumes. After the awkward moment passes, she promises to be cautious with expenses in the future, but the Duke says that's not what he wants to discuss. As he struggles to find the right words, Kiera fears he might use the situation to prevent her from attending the party. She tries to excuse herself, but he stops her and is on the verge of asking something important when he decides to just wish her well, and leaves the room, leaving Kiera puzzled about what he truly intended to say. What is it that you're really trying to convey to your daughter, our dear Duke? The day for the gathering has come, and Kiera is dressed in her blue gown. When Joseph sees her, he becomes mesmerized and speechless. He showers her with compliments, making her blush, and then offers his hand as they should be going. They make a lovely pair to look at. As Kiera and Joseph arrive at the gathering, everyone, including the hosts Marquis and Marquess Franche, is surprised. They grace each other's presence, and when Joseph observes that Kiera seems to panic talking with the hosts, he quickly makes an excuse to get her out of the situation. After Joseph checks on Kiera, he asks if she would like to step outside, but she answers that she'll just sit on one of the couches and have something to eat. So Joseph offers to bring her food and leaves her for a while. We really need a Joseph in our lives. As Kiera settles herself on the couch, she observes some ladies nearby having fun talking to each other, and it makes her want to join their conversation too. Suddenly, one of the ladies sees her. The ladies assume that they are disturbing Kiera's peace, so they apologize and go on their way, leaving Kiera alone. Poor Kiera. She just wants to socialize too. Suddenly, a servant approaches Kiera and tells her that the Marquis of Edinburgh, her maternal grandfather, requests her presence. She meets her grandfather at the balcony, and after exchanging greetings, she asks him about the other wife of his father, Rowena Vaneberg, shocking the Marquis. Kiera asks her grandfather if Rowena was indeed sent away from the capital because she was infertile, to which he confirms. Observing her grandpa's reaction, she concludes that he's hiding some information from her. But she recalls the moments before her execution from the past when her grandpa defended her, so she chooses to believe what he tells her. After talking about Rowena, Kiera requests the Marquis to prepare a hiding place far from the capital for her. When her grandpa asks why she would need a hiding place, she answers that she'll tell him when he'll tell her the truth too. Nice bargain, Kiera. As Kiera is about to exit the balcony, she ponders that the hiding place will be where she'll flee to once Cosette appears, and if the same thing will happen in the past when she'll be imprisoned before she'll be executed. She's gonna be really prepared this time. Suddenly, she hears a familiar voice. On the other hand, Joseph, Arthur, and Raina are looking for Kiera so that they can let her see Aiden together with another woman. As they arrive outside looking for her, they see her jump from the balcony. Kiera witnesses Aiden with a woman behind the bushes, and she then confronts him. Oh, this is going to be so interesting. With her scary aura, Kiera grabs and tosses Aiden to the ground and is about to hit him when Raina and Arthur restrain her. Oh, please, don't restrain her. The guy needs a good amount of beating for real. He's a literal red. On the other hand, when Aiden hears Arthur addressing Kiera as Duchess, He realizes that the one he is facing is none other than the daughter of the spirit user family, Kiera Parvis. Even though the realization has hit him, he decides to play innocent and introduces the woman he's with as his partner. He then adds that the moment he shared with Kiera at the restaurant was just a meal they happened to share. Just how shameless this man is. After hearing Aiden explain and defend himself, Kiera snaps and hits him until he lies down on the ground unconscious. That's what you deserve, you piece of trash. She then leaves him on the ground and walks away, and when Joseph follows her, she says that she left her shoe on the balcony, so Arthur and Raina run to get it. Joseph checks on Kiera and asks if she wants to go home, but she refuses to and explains that she will only return home once she fully enjoys the night. She continues that she will not let some awful guy ruin her day. That's our girl. Don't let any man hinder you from being happy, ladies. Just as she wants to lash out her anger at Aiden more, Raina and Arthur arrive, bringing her shoe. Joseph then kneels in front of Kiera and puts the shoe on her foot and comforts her. After securing the shoe, he offers his hand to her and invites her to dance with him. Joseph is the standard. As Joseph and Kiera begin dancing, she observes her partner's face closely and thinks that he is so handsome. She then stares at him so intensely that it makes him blush and stiffen. That's right, Kiera. Don't go looking for a man somewhere else. The man is right in front of you. In the morning, a girl named Daphne Shore visits Kiera's house and reveals herself to be the daughter of Viscountess Shore, who had previously visited. Daphne explains her role in assisting with Zeke's upcoming birthday celebration. As they discuss the preparations, Daphne notices Kiera's somber mood and inquires about it. Kiera opens up to Daphne, sharing her struggle with socializing and making friends. Daphne suggests attending a salon party as a way to ease into social gatherings and invites Kiera to accompany her to a party hosted by the princess. Kiera gladly accepts the invitation. Feeling unsure about conversation topics, Kiera confesses her concern to Daphne. Undeterred, Daphne offers help by sharing the current trends, revealing she had done the same for her brother, which impresses Kiera with her knowledge. Suddenly, Kiera remembers Daphne's brother, who Viscountess Shore had told her about. Kiera then wonders if she will be able to meet him soon, as she wants to ask him about time reversal magic. This magician guy is surely piquing my interest. I wonder what he looks like. In the Imperial Palace, the princess is surprised upon hearing that Kiera will be attending her salon party. I hope the princess is nice. The Imperial Prince Mikhail d'Arc and his sister, Princess Arabella d'Arc, discuss Kiera's sudden acceptance of the invitation for the party the princess will be hosting. Arabella is annoyed, knowing that Kiera will attend her party, but Mikhail tells her that Kiera must have her reasons for her sudden interest in attending social gatherings, and that the Parvis house is something they should watch out for. Oh, never mind. Arabella explains her displeasure regarding Kiera as she recalls her encounter with Kiera once at a banquet, where she just gets ignored by Kiera and feels belittled. Insecure much? So Mikhail calms her and asks her to think about it politically and find out Kiera's real intention. Given no choice, the princess agrees to give it a shot in approaching Kiera, despite knowing that she's always been ignored by her. Well, don't worry, princess. Kiera is a changed lady already. In the Parvis house, Robert delivers a report to Duke Parvis about Kiera's whereabouts. The report contains Kiera's meeting with her grandfather and Kiera breaking up with Aiden. Wait. Breaking up? They never were together! Did we miss a few chapters or something? Robert is so advanced. Robert then tells the Duke about Kiera accepting the invitation to the party at the Imperial Palace. Hearing such news shocks Duke Parvis, so he orders Robert to call Kiera into his office. Our girl keeps on surprising us, doesn't she, Ludwig? Outside the house, Kiera thinks about her situation and her progress in investigating magic and spirits. She then remembers her great-aunt, Johanna Parvis, being the only existing spirit user. Kiera ponders about visiting her aunt, but she hesitates as she needs to go through Duke Parvis if she wants to meet her. Suddenly, Robert appears and tells her that the Duke is requesting her presence. As Kiera arrives at her father's office, it surprises her since he prepared desserts and drinks for their talk. Wow, the Duke is showing his affection in other ways. He then starts their conversation by asking about her quest for looking for a good husband. Kiera answers that she hasn't asked someone about marriage yet, but adds that she will soon succeed. The Duke then replies that she can do as she pleases. Wow, character development. Kiera then brings up the topic about her aunt and wishes to see her, to which Duke Parvis agrees. After stating her intentions and meeting her aunt to the Duke, she excuses herself, leaving him alone in the room. As Kiera exits the room, she ponders about the Duke's expressions during their conversation, and then her mind wanders about what could it be that her grandfather is hiding from her, and she thinks that it could be something important to solve her dilemma. What could it be that her grandpa is hiding? The salon party is buzzing in excitement. The Lady Parvis is attending, and it is unlike her to come to any social events at all. Our girl Kiera is the talk of the town once again. The princess is beyond uncomfortable that someone who has been rude to her is coming to the opening of her salon, while the other guests are anxious to have to deal with the atmosphere that she brings. When she arrives with Lady Daphne, she politely greets the princess. Kiera's attempt to make friends will now begin. You can do it, girl! We can only hope that she will find true friends. Later on, they are all seated and enjoying themselves. The princess then introduces the special guest for her party, which is the famous musician, Mr. Joshua White. The ladies start swooning almost instantly when they catch a glimpse of him. These girls are true fangirls indeed. Like us. Meanwhile, Daphne has to give Kiera a quick lesson so she can keep up. Kiera is forced into the spotlight when the princess asks her to request a song from Mr. White. She grips the teacup harder as she frantically forms a response. Good thing the dutiful Daphne has given her pointers about him beforehand, even mentioning his famous song, Wolfgang Sunset. She composes herself and requests the song casually. Great save, Kiera. For a while, she is relieved that the conversation is flowing seamlessly. After the party, Kiera goes to the princess to bid her farewell, and the princess graciously asks her to visit again. As she is leaving, she accidentally drops a piece of paper. Naturally, the princess's maid picks it up for her, and what she sees shocks her. Written on the paper are all the latest trends among the young ladies, even information about Joshua White. Kiera instantly rushes back, embarrassed beyond belief. Kiera and the princess find themselves in an awkward conversation after the discovery of Kiera's social cheat sheet. Kiera explains that she worries about keeping up with the conversation, which surprises the princess, who can't believe a noble lady doesn't know how to converse with others. Even more astonished, the princess learns that Kiera attended the party with the intention of making friends. Kiera confesses her desire to join the princess and her friends in social events, but was always afraid of ruining the atmosphere with her presence. Making friends is really hard, Kiera, especially if you're an introvert. The princess can't believe her ears and slams her hands on the table in sheer disbelief. She exclaims that she had always glared at them, but Kiera reveals that it's just her natural expression. As Kiera leaves, the princess realizes she had misinterpreted Lady Parvis all along and had been making something out of nothing. That is why we should never judge anyone quickly, princess. As Kiera leaves the palace, Daphne awaits her and eagerly asks about her encounter with the princess, relieved to hear it went well. However, Daphne expresses her outrage at not being informed about Kiera's plans to find a husband. She scolds Kiera for not confiding in her and then presents an invitation, revealing that she has been sending them out and making sure to invite numerous handsome young men. Daphne is so determined to play matchmaker. An ultimate wingwoman indeed. She is so sure that Kiera will find her destined love soon. Her excitement is practically radiating off of her that Kiera doesn't want to break her enthusiasm. She agrees to attend despite her initial reluctance. We can't blame Daphne, we're excited too! When it is time for the Shore's family party, everyone is buzzing about Kiera's presence once again, especially since it has recently been circulating that she is looking for a husband. Kiera has once again asked Sir Joseph to join her as her partner in the party. And boy, did they look dashing together! Sir Joseph is definitely rocking that uniform. Kiera, believe me, you do not need to find a husband. He's right beside you. Daphne is quick to greet her once they arrive. She is so enthusiastic to aid Kiera in her quest for true love, going out of her way to invite the most outstanding-looking men out there. She most certainly knows how to do an assignment. It must be great to have a friend and such an efficient wingwoman. When Daphne leaves to greet her other guests, Sir Joseph says that Kiera is quite close to her, and Kiera shyly replies that they are friends. Go, girl! You're making such progress! You even have a friend now, and a good one at that. All of a sudden, she locks eyes with the startled princess. Her Highness certainly did not expect her to attend. Kiera and Sir Joseph greet the princess in the customary manner, and Kiera's attempt at a friendly smile startles the princess, making her even scarier. Out of politeness, the princess offers to introduce Kiera to her friends, but she is dismayed when Kiera accepts. As Kiera talks to the other lady, she is taken aback when someone speaks close to her ear from behind, telling her that she should have gone to him first when she returned. Turning her head, she recognizes him as the man who performed a spell after her death in her past life. The man identifies her as a regressor, stating that he has finally found her. What could this mean? Upon realizing the person in front of her, she's overwhelmed by a rush of memories. She stumbles, and Sir Joseph quickly catches her, demanding better manners in front of Lady Parvis. Again, Joseph is such a man. The incredibly handsome man explains he has something to tell her. Kiera decides to have a brief talk with him while Sir Joseph waits. They find privacy in the lounge, and after a moment of hesitation, Kiera asks how he knows she's a regressor from the past. The man reveals that he sent her back, and she's the only one retaining her memories, marked by a spell on her head. Learning all this surprises Kiera, especially knowing that even the caster himself lacks knowledge of their past life, as time reversal is an uncomfortable type of magic, used as a last resort. He then asks about her last memory of the past. When she solemnly reveals receiving the death penalty, his smugness disappears, replaced by visible concern for the gravity of the situation. He explains that as a rare time magician, he's likely the only one who can alter the flow of time. The spell involves two people, the caster and another person. The flaw is that only the other person can decide whose memory will be restored, and they usually choose themselves. Kiera realizes that since she didn't cast the spell with him, there must have been another person present, and that person chose to retain her memories. The question is, who is that person? Things are getting increasingly complicated. After their serious conversation, the magician introduces himself as Erez Shore, a magician in the Magic Tower. She also finds out that Erez is Daphne's older brother, noting how he is different and less cautious than his sister. She takes her leave since a certain someone is waiting for her outside. He instantly assumes that it's probably the man with a vicious gaze. He may be vicious, but he is nothing short than adorable. Don't worry, Erez, you're quite handsome yourself. Kiera explains that one should not leave one's partner for long. Kiera goes to Sir Joseph apologizing for making him wait. He questions her about Erez and why he called her a regressor. She once again laments about the magician's lack of discretion. Good thing Joseph takes in her excuses even though he knows that she's hiding something. Can we take a second to appreciate this man's beauty? He's angelic. 2 days later, there is an uproar when the news that Lady Parvis has apparently chosen a lover, and that it is no other than Erez Shore. The issue has been plastered in every tabloid there is, and Kiera couldn't be more satisfied that things are going smoothly. The Grand Duke's mood, on the other hand, is even more melancholy than usual. What's wrong, Papa Parvis? Why aren't your usual stoic self? He is in the sitting area while Kiera is getting ready for her trip to visit her great-aunt. Her brother Zeke is there as well, and he can't help but ask for assurance that his sister isn't really planning to get married. Ah, what a cutie! If only all siblings were as adorable as him. The maids and her little brother are outside to see her off as she begins her journey to her great-aunt. She needs to get more clues from this spirit before Cosette arrives. Upon arriving at her great-aunt's estate, Johanna Parvis warmly greets Kiera. Settling in the sitting room, Kiera asks if it's possible for a normal person to be a spirit user. Johanna, not one for studying, can't answer with certainty, but she shares personal and research records of their ancestors who were spirit users. Kiera feels hopeful, anticipating more clues. In her room, Kiera delves into the records. The research contains familiar knowledge, but it's the personal accounts that catch her attention. She reads about two sisters where the younger one manifested her power on time, while the other one grew depressed waiting. The eldest sister's despair ends when the younger one tries something called resonance, touching her sister for the first time. This contact awakens the older sister's ability to see spirits. She had possessed the power all along, and the point of contact with her sister allowed it to surface. Could this be the answer as to why Cosette managed to see the spirits first? Or did she fake it? What do you guys think? The sisters formulated a hypothesis. The younger one believed that her powers could awaken her sister's abilities by sharing spirit energy. They named this phenomenon resonance, a temporary manifestation of dormant powers unique to Parvis sisters. As Kiera reads the journal with tears in her eyes, she feels a sense of relief. In her past life, she had doubted herself in Cosette's presence, but now she knows her ability to see spirits was dormant all along. You've been through a lot, our dear Kiera. Most significantly, she realizes that she could see the spirits through resonance because Cosette touched her, confirming their sisterhood. Oh no, nobody wants to be sisters with such a The day of Zeke's birthday banquet arrives, and Kiera feels the pressure of time running out. As she gets ready for the event, she regrets not telling her great aunt about resonance. However, she realizes that there's no certainty it will lead to an awakening, and her aunt will likely support Cosette as well when the time comes. Kiera reminds herself not to be impatient and that they both still need to wait for the goddess. That's right, let's not lose hope, Kiera. At the banquet, as people from notable houses introduce themselves and greet the young lord, an unexpected figure enters the hall, causing murmurs of disbelief from the crowd. The man, Count Isaac Weinberg, has been a recluse for a long time and is the brother of the Grand Duke's previous wife. Kiera looks at the woman with him and recognizes Cosette at last. Cosette greets them, and rather than acting cold like in her previous life, Kiera smiles at her warmly and greets her in return. The girl declares how happy she is that she is now reunited with her family after many years. Zeke is the one to react negatively, stating how nonsensical her claim is. He even calls Sir Arthur to throw them out. Before the knight can touch her, Cosette protests, insisting that she is the Grand Duke's flesh and blood. At that moment, the Grand Duke himself enters and the girl greets him. She even calls him father. His Excellency is naturally taken aback when the girl declares herself his daughter. Meanwhile, Kiera's suspicion of her grows. How can someone who supposedly grew up as a commoner be able to handle the heavy gaze of many nobles? She doubts that she grew up not knowing her identity. The Grand Duke asks if Cosette can prove her claim. Hearing this, Kiera is sure that nothing has changed, not even the words that her father is about to say. She has already experienced this before, so getting hurt by her father's lack of care is just foolish to her. You poor girl. I can only imagine how much pain she had gone through with the way her father had treated her. But she is wrong. The Grand Duke suddenly makes Cosette repeat the words she said as a greeting to him. Upon hearing it again, his shock is palpable on his face. After a moment of chaos between the Count and their grandfather, the Grand Duke announces that they are gathered there for his son's birthday, and not to mention the topic all throughout the celebration. Kiera doesn't understand why things have changed. Is it possible that her father remembers too? This is getting better and better. Zeke is seething that Weinbergs used his birthday to announce such an issue. He is hostile with them, which is understandable. Kiera has to encourage him to lighten up and not ruin his special day. Moments later, Kiera is standing at the edge of the crowd when someone calls for her attention. It's Arez, and my gosh, is he dashing as ever. We love that suit, don't we, guys? She instantly threatens him to not say anything, otherwise she'll hit him. She is definitely not in the mood. You better not provoke her, Arez. Arez observes how weird the atmosphere is, so Kiera tells him about Cosette. The moment he sees her, he is dramatically startled. She instantly asks him if he knows her, but he tells her that he merely finds her unusual. Kiera then tells him that she claims to be the Duke's real daughter, and that she would probably accuse her of being a fake. Arez tells her to be wary of her since he feels something sinister going on with her. She assures him that even without his warning, she'll definitely be careful. I would be too. Have you seen how eerily glowy she is? Very suspicious. Arez observes her clench her fists around the wine glass as she seethes in anger about how that girl who dares to take her place. Our girl is ready to fight tooth and nail. Woohoo! Rumors about Cosette have begun spreading like wildfire in their estate, and all Kiera can do is ignore it. She is making her way to the Grand Duke's office when Rose asks her if she's all right. She answers with so much conviction that she trusts her mother not to have committed infidelity. Meanwhile, the Grand Duke is thinking about how Cosette's eerie voice resembles the one in his dreams. When Kiera arrives, he makes her take a seat. Kiera is so sure that he has finally made a decision, which is the reason for summoning her. However, she is beyond surprised when he asks for her opinion in the matter. When had he ever asked for her thoughts? Is the Grand Duke finally stepping up as a father, or are we getting our hopes up? You better do something, Papa Parvis. She decides to be honest with him and states it is not a pleasant feeling when all sorts of rumors about her are spreading. Before she continues answering him, she thinks about how she needs to keep an eye on Cosette if she is to be an unavoidable enemy. She then declares that she trusts her mother and that she will not object to his decision. However, hearing his uncharacteristic regard for her opinion, Kiera can't help but wonder why her father is being considerate of her. Hey, everyone can change, right? Let's hope for the best. When she exits her father's office, Kiera is instantly met by her brother, who is desperate for information. When she tells him that the Grand Duke has decided to take the girl in, Zeke visibly deflates. Kiera assures him that she really is okay. She knows that her mother is kind and honest. She would never have committed adultery. Zeke is still angry for his sister, so he is determined to make Cosette feel as unwelcome as possible. Oh, how sweet. Kiera takes his hand and asks him if he trusts her. When he expressed his affirmation, she told him that they should treat Cosette as a guest. Kiera notes that 3 of her knight friends, including Sir Joseph, are peeking in the corner. She tells them to come out, and she assures them as well that she is all right. The adorable Sir Joseph becomes upset for her and tells her to not be too distressed, for the truth will be revealed one day. That is so right. Even with all that's happening, her heart is lighter when she is surrounded by people who care for her. You deserve these types of people around you, Kiera. When it is the day for Cosette's arrival, she determinedly stands outside to meet her, even though her servants tell her she doesn't have to do it. Kiera greets Cosette warmly and even welcomes her to the family. Cosette extends her hand for a handshake as she expresses her hope for them to get along. Gathering all her conviction, Kiera takes her hand and tells her that she hopes for the same. We hope this time Kiera gets to manifest her powers first and prove herself the real one. It was a time before Kiera's regression. Sir Joseph observed how sensitive she had been, probably all because of the girl the Count Weinberg had brought. He is saddened about how fast people change their mind about his lady, even though she had meticulously done her duty for the past few years. He can only wonder if she is okay. How dreamy can a person be? He is so thoughtful. We're literally having heart eyes right now. After a rigorous training session with the other knights, he pondered how House Weinberg attempted to erase Kiera's existence, even pressuring her to give up her position as captain. Lost in thought, he heard someone still training and went to investigate, finding Kiera practicing with her sword. Accidentally injuring herself, he saw a pain in her eyes that went beyond the physical wound. Hurrying to check on her, he expressed concern, but she took it as pity and berated him, asserting her strength and independence, declaring she didn't need anyone's help. No one's an island, Kiera. Take all the help that you need. When she asked him to be her partner in a sword warm-up, he spoke up, reminding her that he was her knight and served the strongest. And again, he's also your knight in shining handsomeness. He couldn't see her as weak. His words brought a genuine smile to her face as she challenged him to grab his swords, asserting that a knight should show sincerity through their skill, a challenge he eagerly accepted. Everything shifted once again when he learned that Lady Cosette had managed to awaken the power of the spirit. Oh no, not again! Lady Kiera had not eaten for days, not even drinking a sip of water. He tried to get her out of her stupor, so she wouldn't have to break down. He even begged her desperately to hang in there, but to no avail, she barely responded. The lady is then sentenced to death. Poor Kiera, she tried to do everything to change her fate. Her younger brother was determined to reason with his father as he marched to his office with Sir Joseph hot at his heels. He asked the young lord to stop, but Zeke expressed his anger about the situation, especially about how his sister had been treated. Sir Joseph made him understand that he needed to exercise caution since people were watching them. He told the young master to calm down and promised that he would go to the Grand Duke himself. Zeke agreed, and he went back to his room. Sir Joseph then made his way to the Grand Duke's office, where the Grand Duke himself opened the door for him. Continuing with the flashback before Kiera's regression in Joseph's POV, he tried talking to Kiera's father about his decision to execute Kiera. He protested that if they wrongly accused Kiera, the entire empire would suffer the consequence of executing the true priestess. Despite Joseph's objection, the Duke was stern in punishing his own daughter after Cosette proved to possess the Parvis's power in front of the nobility and the imperial family, in fear of the prophecy that a fake lady would bring disaster. He couldn't do anything. After all, he was just a knight sworn to protect Kiera. The Duke, well, was the head of the Empire's shield. Joseph was determined to save Kiera, so he devised a plan to slip out Kiera and Zike before the execution date. However, on that day, Kiera refused to go with Zike. Perhaps she did not want to struggle longer. Maybe she gave up on living after witnessing her father willingly give her up. Joseph reflected on how Kiera had endured a lifetime of struggle to achieve greatness and earn her father's approval, all while being trapped by the expectations of her role as the Parvis family's lady. He wished that he comforted her and became someone she could depend on, not just as her knight. But all he could do was reminisce about the last time their swords clashed in training, along with the words he failed to say to Kiera. He could do nothing but linger over the traces of her and pray that she gets another chance to live, free from all the restraints, to live how she truly desired. Gosh, someone find me a man like Joseph! And then, Kiera was executed. After the word of Cosette's arrival in the Parvis's manor spreads, Kiera receives letters from her friends. Zike is amazed that Kiera has made many friends already. Letters from his grandfather, Bella, Daphne, and her servants all express their support towards her. One particular letter stands out as it bursts in a magical light and a hologram of Erez appears. Along with the message is a ring that could defend Kiera if Cosette ever tries to harm her. She wonders if he is truly worried for her and thinks how unpredictable he is. I'm sensing something here. Rose, her servant, notes that the mood in the castle has been unsettling since a wild Cosette appeared. Zike and Rose urge her to be careful with the Pokemon. Cosette has been acting friendly around the servants, obviously scheming something. It's time for Kiera to make her move and start her act. Later, Kiera meets Joseph on her way to the training grounds. Joseph invites Kiera to a swordsmanship training with the knights, but she refuses, saying that she's no longer the captain, and it's Joseph's responsibility to train the knights. She, however, is open to sparring in the future. Before parting ways, Joseph reassures Kiera of his allegiance and that she can always rely on him in times of trouble. Please, Joseph, stop! You're bringing out the fangirl in me! Later, Kiera begins her warming up by practicing her swordsmanship stance. She knows exactly what is going to happen. And then, a familiar scene unfolds. Cosette arrives with a bouquet, wearing a pretentious smile. Kiera commands Cosette to step back as she wields a sword. Cosette praises Kiera for being trained as a knight, but Kiera knows these are just empty words. In response, Kiera asks Cosette to leave, as chatting with her is a waste of energy. Cosette makes the predictable move of pretending she only wants to befriend Kiera. She then realizes this isn't working, and she begins to provoke her. She accuses Kiera of not being the Duke's real daughter, and basically says that her mother was unfaithful. In her past life, Kiera would have slashed the blabbering baboon, and perhaps she should, but Kiera has learned her lesson and decides to play along with Cosette's act. She pities Cosette for being brainwashed by the Count of Weinberg into believing she is the Duke's real daughter. Frustrated, Cosette claims that she is the spitting image of the Duke and that everyone will believe she is the real daughter, while Kiera is nothing but a fraud. But this is exactly what Kiera means. Cosette is born with a face that is so easy for the Count to exploit. The servants arrive, worried about Cosette, scolding her for not informing them of her whereabouts. Paula, a servant, apologizes to Kiera, probably for failing to keep Cosette in her place. Before leaving, Kiera innocently reminds Cosette not to do anything that would alarm the servants. In the past, Cosette would have been the one smirking as she left. Now, it's Kiera's turn to smirk. Later that day, while reading a novel in her room, Kiera and Rose spot Cosette speaking with one of Kiera's servants, probably scheming. Emily, one of Kiera's servants, is scanning through a catalog in the courtyard, awing at dresses and jewelry of noble ladies. Cosette approaches her and uses the opportunity to win her over. She tries to sweet-talk Emily about how cutesy and demure the dresses in the catalog are. Emily thinks how lucky Cosette is on becoming a noble lady overnight. Suddenly, Cosette invites Emily to visit a boutique with her. Emily has only ever seen beautiful dresses in catalogs since Kiera only calls designers into the castle and never visits boutiques. Emily starts imagining how she would look in noble dresses and thinks of having a rags to riches story like Cosette. But it strikes Emily that she'll have to ask Kiera's permission. A few moments later, Emily asks Kiera for approval to go with Cosette. She reassures Kiera that she does not have ulterior motives in going with Cosette. She only wants to experience going to a boutique. To her surprise, Kiera agrees, as if there's no problem with it at all. Before Emily leaves, Kiera asks her to keep their conversation a secret, even from Rose, and wishes that she'll have a good time. When Emily walks out of Kiera's room, she runs into Rose, who hears her say she got permission. Rose questions Emily's motives for following Cosette to a boutique. She sees Emily wearing a ruby bracelet before the latter runs off. Rose believes that Emily is betraying Kiera for jewelry that Cosette bribed her with. Unbeknownst to her, Cosette is eavesdropping and satisfyingly grinning, feeling her success in messing with Kiera's servants. At lunchtime, while the rest of the Parvises are eating quietly, Cosette cannot just stop yapping about how excellent the foods are. Girl, can't you read the room? Out of the blue, Cosette asks her father if she could meet her great-aunt. As usual, the nonchalant Duke agrees, but warns Cosette not to bother the lady as she is not in good health. On that cue, Kiera offers to go with her. Kiera justifies that it will be better that she comes to introduce her great-aunt and Cosette to each other, so they will not be uncomfortable. Kiera recalls that in her past life, Cosette visited the great-aunt alone, and she suspects that she had other intentions of visiting her great-aunt. This time, she will watch Cosette's moves closely. Digressing the topic, Kiera informs Cosette that none of the servants volunteered to serve her, so she decides that they will take turns serving her. Cosette questions why Kiera is deciding on that matter. She intently looks at the Duke, expecting him to overrule Kiera, but the Duke simply takes his leave. Kiera promises to send a maid and encourages Cosette to tell her of any inconvenience she experiences, though she doubts Cosette would have any concerns in the castle compared to her previous dwelling. Frustrated by her defeat, Cosette leaves the dining hall. Zike praised Kiera for standing her ground. Kiera feels delighted to watch the bitterness on Cosette's face. Kiera and Cosette finally visit their great-aunt. Cosette is back to her usual innocent act, pretentiously admiring Lady Johanna's, Kiera's great-aunt's, castle. Lady Johanna welcomes the two at her gates. While Kiera respectfully greets her aunt, Cosette casually introduces herself with an overly energetic tone. Like one of those pick-me girls. The lady cannot help but see the resemblance between Cosette and her nephew, the Duke. However, she does not mention a thing and continues welcoming her guests. As they settle themselves in Lady Johanna's estate, Cosette begins bothering Kiera with her nonsensical questions. Kiera knows better than to pay attention to Cosette's antics until Cosette asks about the elemental crystal of Beatrix. The elemental crystal is supposed to hold the power of the water goddess, Beatrix. Cosette tells Kiera that it is said one can use the elemental power simply by possessing the crystal. Kiera warns Cosette of ever speaking about this knowledge in public. If House Parvis kept this information, then there must be a good reason why it has never been revealed. The annoying blonde continues asking Kiera if she has touched it and accuses her of planning to use the crystal. Sternly, Kiera shuts down Cosette by calling out how wasteful she was with her time. Kiera suggests to Cosette to spend it studying table manners and noble etiquette so as not to embarrass Lady Johanna. Finally, she said it! As Kiera leaves, Emily arrives and Cosette immediately runs towards her and hugs her. With crocodile tears, she tells Emily that she only wishes to make friends with Kiera, but deep inside, she is praying for Kiera's morale to finally break. Back in her room, Kiera wonders what Cosette is really up to for visiting Lady Johanna. But whatever the reason is, Kiera is determined to stop Cosette from advancing her plans. Cosette's words keep on replaying in Kiera's mind. Where did Cosette learn about the elemental crystal? Kiera wonders and suspects Cosette's real business for visiting Lady Johanna. Kiera contemplates if Cosette is planning to use the crystal or something else. In the middle of the night, Kiera and Rose approach Lady Johanna's butler to request a bottle of wine from the basement cellar. At first, the butler hesitates to give them the key to the basement, but later agrees to them after Kiera assures her that she'll take responsibility if anything goes wrong. Before going, the butler whispers to Kiera something about the basement. Rose worries that if they make a mistake, it will look bad on Kiera and get her in trouble. However, Kiera assures her that everything will be fine. At that moment, a figure runs behind them. It was Emily. Emily goes to Cosette and reports Kiera's moves and her plan to go down to the basement by herself to get wine. but they know Kiera does not enjoy drinking. Cosette suspects that a secret passage is in the basement connecting to the elemental crystal, and Kiera will use it to sneak down to get the crystal. She hurriedly uses this opportunity to catch Kiera red-handed, and alerts the whole castle that an intruder is in the basement. It turns out that Cosette made up a lie about gaining elemental powers by possessing the elemental crystal, and she believes that Kiera fell directly into her trap. The guards and everyone in the castle surround the entrance to the basement, waiting for the intruder to come out. Cosette thinks that she succeeded in catching Kiera. However, she realizes the mess she has made when it is Rose who steps out of the basement. Frustrated that things didn't go her way, Cosette starts pressuring Rose to reveal where Kiera is hiding and claims that Kiera went down to take the crystal. Amid the commotion, Lady Johanna arrives at the scene, demanding an explanation of the ruckus. Cosette insists that Rose was trying to steal the elemental crystal of Beatrix for Kiera. Right then, Kiera arrives coming down the stairs from her room. Kiera tells Cosette that she has no reason to approach the crystal, and if she did, she could simply ask her great aunt to allow her. Cosette is lost for words. She planned to get Kiera caught using the crystal to forcibly use elemental powers and be suspected of the fake daughter. Kiera adds that she only asked Rose to get a bottle of wine from the cellar. To this, Cosette protests that Kiera never enjoyed drinking enough for her to steal the key to the basement. Kiera explains that she didn't steal the key. She simply took it after arranging it in advance with the butler, which the butler backs up. And the whisper? It was the butler recommending the best wine in the cellar. Cosette realizes that she was not informed that the butler and Kiera had prior arrangements. Emily betrayed her. Emily was never her ally. Kiera accuses Cosette of prying into her background. For how else would she know her drinking habit when they haven't known each other long enough? The other maids testify that Cosette has been asking around about Kiera. Lady Johanna finally speaks and calls Cosette's actions ridiculous after she alarmed the whole castle for nothing. After expressing her disappointment, Lady Johanna urges everyone to go back to their bed. On their way back, Kiera commends Emily for doing a good job. Emily fills in Rose with what happened since Rose thought Emily betrayed Kiera for a bracelet. Previously, Emily befriended Cosette to know her motives. Immediately after Cosette approached her, Emily reported to Kiera what happened, including Cosette's offer to visit a boutique. It turns out that Kiera already knew that Cosette would approach Emily. She agreed for Emily to go with Cosette to act as her servant to spy on her. It is the reason why they kept it a secret from Rose. And the bracelet? It was from Kiera, not Cosette. As the dust settles, Lady Johanna and Kiera talk about the incident. They suspect that it was Count Weinberg who told Cosette about the existence of the elemental crystal. Kiera claims that Cosette simply heard that she was going down to the basement and immediately thought that Kiera was looking for the crystal, which means that Cosette had the same intention of looking for the crystal. Lady Johanna confirms that the elemental crystal of Beatrix is merely an object that proves the existence of the bond with the elementals. Simply touching it doesn't give someone the elemental powers. Kiera remembers that in her past life, Cosette visited Lady Johanna alone, so framing Kiera wasn't her original plan. If Cosette came to find the crystal, it must not be because it would help manifest her powers. It strikes Kiera. What if Cosette planned to destroy the crystal, breaking the bond with Beatrix? Lady Johanna reveals that she looked into Cosette's background and found nothing as if it was purposely wiped clean. She then warns Kiera to be wary of Cosette. After visiting Lady Johanna, Kiera rendezvous with Erez at a restaurant. Kiera shares with Erez the events at Lady Johanna's castle. Erez thinks that now Lady Johanna is disappointed with Cosette, Kiera will definitely get her support in strengthening her claim. As for Cosette, Erez thinks that she must have gone silent after the incident. However, Kiera reveals that House Weinberg sent a letter demanding Kiera to denounce any position she has because her blood relationship with House Parvis hasn't been confirmed yet. In her previous life, Kiera immediately resigned from her position as the captain of the Knights to show that she didn't need any position to belong to House Parvis. She did it to look cool, but it didn't work out for her back then. Now that she feels closer to the Knights of Parvis, aka Joseph, she decides to keep her position. Erez mentions the ring that he gave her with the letter, but Kiera is keeping it in a box instead of wearing it since it was loose on her finger. He reaches for Kiera's fingers and fondles them as if ascertaining her ring size. Kiera is surprised by this bold move and turns red. How flirty. Erez explains that for the defensive power of the ring to work, it must be in contact with Kiera's body. If Cosette harms Kiera in a certain way, Erez didn't explain how, he would be instantly teleported to Kiera. Kiera requests to have it as earrings instead of a ring since it's uncomfortable for her to practice swordsmanship. Erez gets close to her face, teasing the lady and turning her red again. Back in the Parvis' manor, Cosette approaches Joseph and requests to speak with him alone. Cosette leads Joseph to the back garden. Arthur and Raina notice this and wonder what Cosette is planning to do. Kiera arrives looking for Joseph. She heads to the garden after Arthur and Raina tell her that Cosette requested to talk with Joseph alone. On her way, Kiera thinks Cosette is trying to trick Joseph. I'm sensing jealousy. Kiera overhears Cosette trying to persuade Joseph to take his position as the captain of the Parvis Knights. Cosette tells him that he is more worthy than a fake, implying Kiera to take the position. She also accuses Joseph of always wanting to surpass Kiera. Joseph answers that he indeed feels a sense of rivalry with Kiera as a knight and not for some petty, shallow reason. He tells Cosette that he initially thought she was an innocent victim of Count Weinberg's scheme, with a face that can easily be used to claim as a daughter of the Duke. But now that he witnessed Cosette trying to go between him and Kiera, Joseph believes that she's conspiring with Weinberg. Joseph walks out after rejecting Cosette and suggests she take a nap instead of wasting her time. Oof, that burns! Joseph discovers that Kiera heard everything and blushes after remembering the sense of rivalry part, and becomes even more flustered about saying just take a nap to dear Cosette. Kiera wishes that the other knights also think of her worthy as a captain. Joseph reassures her that the knights are on her side and none question her title. He adds that they will, of course, believe someone who's always been with them rather than a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. This statement gives Kiera a new source of courage. Kiera rushes off to meet her father to inform him that she will return to her duties as a captain. The Duke receives a letter from the imperial family that reminds him of the prophecy and demands him to make a decision for the current situation. Besides, House Parvis cannot involve personal emotions for the greater cause. Kiera arrives and immediately informs the Duke that she wants to return as the captain of the Knights and that she will not back down even after House Weinberg demands her to relinquish her position. The Duke promises to send a warning to Weinberg for interfering in Parvis's family affairs. Before Kiera leaves, the Duke asks her why she isn't addressing him as father like she used to. Kiera is surprised by this sudden question. The Duke has never been a father to her. In fact, he was the one who decided Kiera's death after he accepted Cosette as the real Parvis daughter. Kiera answers that she thought the Duke never cared about such trivial matters, since he always put family dignity over family harmony. That hurts. The Duke seems to look affected by Kiera's answer. As Kiera leaves her father, she remembers the face her father made and wonders what it meant. Alone, the Duke contemplates how he carries his duty as the head of House Parvis and as a father. He pursued absolute reason like how his predecessors did, often forgetting to show fondness for his child. He realizes that he has never said warm words or paid attention to his daughter. Expecting Kiera to address him as father is laughable. Kiera can't shake off Duke Parvis's words from last night as she heads to the tea party. The thought of calling him father in private lingers in her mind, stirring a mix of emotions she can't quite name. When she arrives, her chaperone opens the door, and the princess greets her warmly. However, Her Majesty's smile fades slightly when Kiera explains that Cosette isn't feeling well. Though disappointed, the princess encourages Kiera to enjoy herself, reminding her that the tea party is for the younger crowd. Just as Kiera begins to relax, the princess teasingly warns her not to spill the cheating paper, making Kiera blush with embarrassment. It's also kind of sweet how the princess is trying to help Kiera loosen up, even if it's with a bit of teasing. I sure hope their friendship continues. After the princess leaves, Kiera feels out of place until Daphne greets her warmly and invites her to join the other ladies in a card game. Just as they're having fun, Kiera's grandfather arrives unexpectedly. She excuses herself to speak with him privately. In their conversation, Kiera's grandfather inquires if she knows what Weinberg intends to do. Instead of answering, Kiera asks if Weinberg is truly unable to have children. Though reluctant, her grandfather reveals that someone capable of having children actually did, leaving Kiera in shock. Kiera suspects that Cosette is Rowena's child, but her grandfather adamantly denies it, insisting he saw the child was dead with his own eyes. He reveals that Rowena was killed to keep her silent and the fetus died with her. Angry, Kiera demands to know why he killed Rowena. My gosh, this family sure is filled with dark secrets. Her grandfather explains that Rowena is their enemy and tries to justify his actions, urging her to understand and insisting that Zike must never find out. Kiera, still unsettled, asks if the Duke knew about Rowena's pregnancy, but her grandfather confirms that the Duke had no contact with her. After answering her questions, her grandfather grows suspicious and asks how she knows about Cosette. Kiera explains that she had a foresight dream, which she believes may be a warning from the goddess. Her grandfather asks if things are progressing as in her dream, and she confirms that they are. He holds her hands, assures her that they are in the same boat, and urges her to talk to him if there's anything she needs to discuss. Kiera nods, assures him, and heads back to the tea party. Before she leaves, her grandfather ominously adds that as they live together, they will die together. She doesn't dwell on his words and steps away. Something's definitely off, and it's making me wonder what Kiera's next move will be. At the table, Kiera mentions that her grandfather gets worried about their situation, prompting one of the ladies to remark that she has a kind side for the Marquise of Edinburgh. Feeling uneasy, Kiera tells the princess she needs to leave early, and the princess understands. As Kiera departs, Daphne watches her with concern, wondering if she's truly all right. On her way back to the mansion, Kiera's thoughts revolve around the possibility that her grandfather might have killed Rowena himself. Arriving at the mansion, her butler informs her that she has a guest waiting. In the Duke's room, Erez is questioned by Duke Parvis, who asks if he has a title. Erez replies no, but mentions he is the mage of the magic tower and has no intention of taking over the family patriarch. Parvis, glaring at Erez, throws down tabloids about him and Kiera. Look at him acting so fatherly. Little too late if you ask me. But then again, her dad has no right to be this hot. Getting sidetracked again. Anyway, Erez reassures him it's not what it seems and explains that he came to see Kiera as promised. Parvis, angry, questions Erez's frequent visits, but Erez denies any frequent contact with Kiera. The tension in that room is so thick. Before the situation escalates, Kiera arrives, apologizes, and quickly escorts Erez out. Parvis watches them leave, suspecting their relationship is deeper than it appears. Once outside, Erez comments that Kiera's father is intimidating. Kiera responds that her father is cold-hearted and likely views Erez as just his guest. While walking, Kiera chides Erez for not informing her of his visit beforehand instead of going to the Duke's room. He explains that the Duke insists he comes. Ignoring this, Kiera asks if Erez has something to say. He assures her that he wants to check that she isn't troubled by the imposter and presents her with a pair of earrings, which he puts on her. What a bold move! You can't help but wonder, what's his real game here? Kiera is surprised by the gesture. Erez also remarks that she seems to be living well and notes that her father appears to like her, leaving Kiera shocked. Erez remarks that Kiera's father looks like he's about to chase off a son-in-law trying to steal his daughter. Kiera dismisses this as delusional, insisting her father cares more for a rolling stone than for her. As they tease each other, Erez proposes a bet. If she and Cosette are in danger, they'll see which way the Grand Duke runs. If someone loses, the other must fulfill the winner's wish. Kiera ignores the bet and wonders why Erez is laughing so much. She asks if there's a real risk to her and Cosette or if nothing has happened. That's not just a bet, it's playing with fire. Erez assures her she has nothing to worry about, then excuses himself and kisses her hand goodbye. The gesture leaves Kiera awestruck, and she wonders where he learns it. As Erez arrives at his room using his power, he thinks that he already knows why the Duke turned back time. Wait, what? This story is literally blowing my mind! Another day passes, and as Kiera changes with the help of Emily, she asks if anything happened while she was away. Emily explains that Cosette left right after Kiera, saying she would be volunteering in a slum. Kiera commends Emily for keeping her informed. Meanwhile, her butler arrives to announce that Cosette has returned. Kiera goes to Cosette, who is accompanied by a ragged lady. Cosette tells Kiera that if she is spending time idly at the mansion, she should do something meaningful. She also mentions that she's helped someone in need, which she is talking about the ragged lady. As Kiera looks at that ragged lady, she recognizes her as Mina. Regardless of recognizing Mina, Kiera still asks who she is and why Cosette has brought her. Cosette explains that Mina is now an orphan and asks if she can work at the mansion. Initially skeptical about having Mina work for them due to strict conditions, Kiera eventually agrees. She instructs the maid to take care of Mina and teach her the basics of being a maid. A few months later, Cosette is unusually quiet and kind to the servants. Kiera observes that the maids are more comfortable with Cosette now. As Kiera walks through the hallway, she overhears the maids gossiping with Mina. Mina claims to be fine since Cosette is taking care of her. However, some maids give her extra chores because of Kiera's influence. Emily notes that without Kiera, Mina wouldn't be at the mansion. The nerve of Mina to badmouth Kiera, who has given her a chance at a fresh start? How outrageous! The gossip continues with Mina speaking poorly of Kiera, and the maids express their frustration, calling her ungrateful. Mina argues that Kiera doesn't even resemble the Duke. Hearing this, Kiera can't help but shout that Mina should be careful about what she says about her family. The maids are shocked to learn that Kiera has been listening the whole time. Kiera scolds Mina for her ingratitude and suggests that it might be a reason to expel her. Mina stubbornly denies any wrongdoing. Staying calm, Kiera taps Mina's shoulder, making her flinch as if expecting a slap. Kiera reassures her that she won't be kicked out, as the atmosphere in the mansion is good these days. However, she warns Mina to be cautious of her conduct around the Duke. After that, Kiera instructs Emily to accompany Mina and then leaves. On the day of Kiera's reinstatement, the knights congratulate her as the captain and express their excitement about sparring with her. However, Joseph arrives and says he will spar with her first, starting the match while the knights watch with anticipation. After their spar, Joseph commends Kiera for staying the same as before. She responds that he's still tough on her, even now as it's her first time picking up a sword in a long while. Kiera suggests they take a break since her throat is dry, and Joseph offers her some water. Such a gentleman. As she waits for him to return, she reminisces about the sparring ground, reflecting on how little it has changed. She thinks back to how, despite being mistreated, Joseph had always supported and protected her. She realizes that his unwavering support might be due to his role as the family's knight. How naive, Kiera! The man is obviously smitten with you! After a while, Joseph returns, smiling with a bottle of water in his hands. Kiera can't help but keep her gaze on him, still lost in thought. Later, they all gather to celebrate Kiera's reinstatement, raising their drinks in her honor. The knights reminisce about the first time they met Kiera and how she was introduced as their captain. They laugh, recalling how she behaved when she got drunk, leaving Kiera feeling a bit embarrassed. Kiera is at her best and most vulnerable tonight. As the night goes on and the atmosphere grows more festive, Kiera decides to make the moment even more memorable. She grabs her sword, its blade gleaming under the lights, and with a swift, graceful motion, she slices open the bottle of liquor. The knights cheer, impressed by her skill, and the celebration continues with even more energy. As they continue their celebration, the knights try to lift Kiera's mood since she's feeling down. Kiera also notices Joseph's face turning red from alcohol, which he claims is because of her that he drinks too much. The others, upon hearing his excuses, tease him for always using Kiera as a scapegoat. Embarrassed, he excuses himself for a walk, and she then asks if she can join him. When they are outside, Joseph drapes his coat over Kiera to help keep her warm. Kiera then asks him why he continues to support her, even though she has been distant and cold towards everyone. He replies that it was when he became an official knight and met Parvis for the first time. He sees her beside Parvis, who's exactly like him. He says that he feels Kiera's loneliness and wants to ease her burdens. As time passes, he feels that his heart has developed a deeper connection with her. However, he doesn't continue what he wants to say, leaving Kiera wondering. Then, he suggests they go back inside as the wind is getting colder. Meanwhile, Emily delivers food to Duke Parvis, who questions why she is the one bringing it when she's supposed to serve Kiera. Emily explains that Kiera is out, which leaves Duke Parvis to assume she's with Erez. Emily clarifies that Kiera is at the celebration for the return of the knights, causing Duke Parvis's mood to shift immediately. After Emily leaves, Parvis reads a letter from his aunt about her deteriorating health and the sacrifice she's willing to offer to the goddess. In the letter, her aunt mentions that she wants Kiera to take her place in the ritual since Kiera is well versed in it. Wow, Kiera wasn't just involved in the ritual, she was meant to lead. She also notes that the shrine considers it may be impossible to choose just one person, as Cosette is also capable of performing the ritual. The aunt asks for Parvis's opinion on the matter. She explains that, given the long-standing tradition of priests offering sacrifices to the goddess, there may be complications with the ritual in the future, regardless of the reason. When he finished reading the letter, he instructed Robert to tell Kiera and Cosette to return to the office in the morning. Unaware, Mina had overheard the conversation between him and Robert. Immediately, Mina rushed to inform Cosette about the ritual. Cosette, grateful for Mina's loyalty, thanked her and assured her that she would secure a position for Mina's brother as soon as her own position was solidified. In response, Mina vowed to serve Cosette faithfully for as long as she lived. "You're not even the one who was chosen by your aunt." Cosette smiled approvingly and said they needed to perform well at the shrine to ensure everything would proceed smoothly. The morning arrives, and Kiera is still preoccupied with what happened to Joseph the night before. She snaps back to reality when Cosette calls her, noting that they rarely see each other. Cosette then asks if Kiera also visits their father to discuss the temple work, but Kiera doesn't respond. Kiera remembers that in the past, she wasn't allowed into their father's room because of Cosette's accusations. Determined not to let Cosette win this time, Kiera arrives first at the door and greets Duke Parvis. When they enter the room, Duke Parvis informs them that their aunt has sent a message and wants to know their opinions, as only one person can go. Both Kiera and Cosette, confident and eager, openly express their desire to go. A squabble begins over who should be chosen. Kiera argues that she should go because she has been involved with the temple alongside their aunt and grandmother. Cosette, however, insists that she deserves the chance. And just like that, the gloves are off. You can almost hear the sparks flying between them. Duke Parvis is unsure about whom to choose. Just as he is about to explain their aunt's message, Cosette quickly grabs Kiera and suggests that they both go. Duke Parvis asks Kiera for her opinion. Afraid of losing the opportunity to Cosette, Kiera hesitates but eventually agrees. Duke Parvis decides that both Kiera and Cosette will go to the temple together. After this decision, they leave the Duke's room. On the day of departure to the temple, Kiera has no choice but to ride in the wagon with Cosette. Cosette happily asks about Kiera's experience in the inner hall at the temple and says she's looking forward to it. Kiera responds that she is also excited about it. When they arrive at the temple, the priests greet Kiera and Cosette and offer to help with the rituals. They show them around, discussing the temple's unchanged structures. Kiera reminisces about past visits with her aunt, while Cosette, excited, asks about their schedule. The priest informs them that they have the rest of the day to prepare for tomorrow. Kiera volunteers to handle the holy thing, and Cosette agrees to care for the divine beast. They go to the area where the divine beast and sacred items are kept. Cosette sees a cute fox and learns from the priest that it was appointed by the fortune teller. Kiera recognizes the holy thing and recalls her aunt's teachings. You can feel the tension rising as these two clash in their own ways. The priest assigns them each a prayer room and instructs them to pray and offer sacrifices at the altar until the final day. After 2 days, Rose tells Kiera that Cosette is getting praise from the nuns, which Kiera is aware of. Rose also notes that the divine beast has been roaming without proper care. Kiera decides to check on Cosette and asks Rose to protect the sacred relic. When Kiera arrives, Cosette asks if she's there to help. Kiera says she's just getting some fresh air and inquires about the divine beast. Cosette replies that Mina is taking care of it. Cosette then remarks that caring for the holy thing must be boring since it doesn't move, which Kiera interprets as Cosette making fun of her. Kiera remains calm while addressing Cosette's attitude, pointing out her distraction with the nuns instead of focusing on their purpose. She warns Cosette not to disturb others and then laughs off Cosette's fury, saying they'll meet the next day. Once Kiera leaves, the nuns question Cosette about the confrontation. Cosette claims Kiera is annoyed because she asked for help and contrasts her noble background with her own commoner status, implying Kiera prefers comfort over duty. As the nuns walk away, Cosette plots to make Kiera regret her actions on the final day. Oh, here we go. Just when you think she can't get any worse, she proves she's the ultimate villain. On the last day, Kiera contemplates her ritual preparations. Rose informs her that Cosette is still helping the nuns, but Kiera focuses on the ritual and the sacred relic, which will be thrown into blue fire. The priest confirms Kiera's prayer transcription is done and directs her to the parish for the final ceremony. Before leaving, Kiera hands Rose the key to the sacred relic and instructs her to protect it. After Kiera departs, Rose, intrigued, touches the relic's glass case and begins cleaning. Her attention shifts when she smells smoke. A fire suddenly breaks out, causing the nuns to panic and shout for everyone to evacuate. Rose opens the door to find the nuns running frantically and is instructed to evacuate as well. As she exits, she shouts for Kiera, her concern for her friend mounting. After some time, Rose spots Kiera and rushes over, asking if she's all right. Kiera reassures her that she's fine and explains that the priests have already extinguished the fire using their divine powers. Rose is relieved, but remembers the sacred relic and worries about its safety. Kiera comforts her, saying that the relic cannot be burned, and Rose feels a bit more at ease knowing she's safe. Meanwhile, Mina, seizing the chaos, throws the holy thing to the ground, shattering it. She thinks to herself that Kiera will have no excuse for ruining the ritual. As Mina exits the room, she encounters Sister Helena and quickly scrambles to come up with a plausible alibi. I can't believe she's actually siding with that Cosette. She's clearly up to no good. When Kiera and Rose return to their prayer room, they're greeted by the sight of the broken holy thing. Kiera immediately deduces that someone must have intentionally broken it. Rose tries to take the blame, but Kiera calms her down and starts to think about the consequences if the priest finds out. She instructs Rose to do what she says from then on. After the fire is extinguished, the pretentious Cosette shows up in the temple to proceed with the rite. Meanwhile, Kiera is running a bit late because of the situation with the sacred object. Mina, Cosette's servant, signals to Cosette that she has done her job setting up Kiera. Kiera arrives late and informs him that she has to check on Rose to make sure she's not injured in the fire. They immediately begin the ritual, praying to the goddess. Kiera is not praying for any miracle to happen, but only for Rose to succeed in whatever plan they are executing. After praying, they continue the rites by offering the sacred object to the goddess. Cosette grins, thinking that her plan to sabotage Kiera and take control of the temple will succeed. Kiera gives the high priest the key to open her oratory. But what greets them is a shocking scene. The sacred object is there on the floor, broken. But that's not just it. The fox, the sacred animal, was playing with it. Kiera devised this plan to make it look like Cosette was at fault for breaking the sacred object. After all, it was Cosette's fault. And with Rose's aid, they succeeded in making Cosette taste her own medicine. Kiera accuses Cosette of not looking after the sacred animal, and now it has broken the sacred object. What a perfect comeback! Cosette tries to shift the blame, suggesting someone must have intentionally brought the animal into the room since the door was locked. The high priest investigates and summons Rose, the last person to leave the room. When Rose arrives, she frantically reacts upon seeing the broken sacred object. She recalls that she forgot to lock the door while evacuating. Afterward, she and Kiera return to change robes, ensuring the door was locked when they left. The sacred object was intact at that time. The high priest concludes that the animal entered when the door was left unlocked during the evacuation. Rose pleads for forgiveness, willing to accept any punishment. Nice acting, girl! However, Kiera argues that if Rose is at fault for forgetting to lock the door, the person responsible for the sacred animal is even more to blame. She demands Cosette's servant be summoned. Mina arrives, and the high priest urges her to speak truthfully, reminding her of the temple's sanctity. When questioned about the sacred animal's escape, Mina hesitates and claims she fled Cosette's oratory in panic during the fire. Kiera calls this a bluff, pointing out that Mina couldn't have known about the fire since Cosette's room was too far from the incident. Mina stammers, unable to come up with another excuse. The high priest concludes that Mina failed to properly care for the animal, leading to the destruction of the sacred object. With other nuns and priests criticizing her incompetence, Mina cannot protest further. The penalty for the offense is supposed to be death, but Kiera encourages the priest to be lenient with the punishment since Mina is Cosette's favorite servant. Instead, why not flog her 50 times before throwing her out of the capital? That doesn't sound any better than the death penalty. As Mina is dragged out, she calls for Cosette's help, but Cosette turns away. To push through with the rite, the high priest decides to use prayer Kiera transcribed as the sacred object offering. Then he asks Kiera to take care of the sacred animal, a fox. Kiera decides to adopt the fox to tease Cosette. After the rite, the nuns begin gossiping about the disaster during the rite. As Rose passes by them, the nuns call her and inquire about what other things Cosette had done, particularly what happened at Lady Johanna's mansion. And the topic of Cosette's indecency starts to spread in the temple. The high priest, Kiera, and Cosette meet to formally address the incident. Since the temple tones down the punishment for Cosette, she kindly asks the high priest if a formal letter of apology from the Parvis Palace is enough for the temple to save face. The letter is to contain a sincere apology and a promise not to entrust any temple affairs to Cosette. Cosette strongly protests against it and says that even Mina's punishment was too much. However, Kiera tells her that Cosette must instead be thankful for being alive after committing a serious crime by ruining the rite. Cosette cannot retort any longer. On their way out after the meeting, Kiera thanks Cosette for giving her an opportunity to get rid of Mina. Cosette realizes the mess she's made. In addition to losing power over the temple, the House Parvis will have to write a formal letter of apology, something beyond shameful for the Duke. The Duke hears about what Cosette did in the temple and angrily demands an audience with her. Cosette appears in the furious Duke's office. The Duke expresses his disappointment, reprimanding her for causing a scene at the temple. He emphasizes that House Parvis has always maintained neutrality, taking great care to protect its reputation. Now, Cosette has brought disgrace to the duchy. The Duke regrets sending Cosette to the temple when he should have sent Kiera alone. He sternly warns her that she'll have no further involvement with the temple. Cosette protests, claiming it was just a mistake. The Duke then questions if what she did at Lady Johanna's estate was also just a mistake. I love seeing her get roasted. The Duke orders Cosette out and places her on probation, confining her to her room unless called upon. Desperate, Cosette tries to persuade the Duke to forgive her, seemingly attempting to hypnotize him. However, it doesn't work as a sudden flash of lightning and heavy rain snap the Duke out of his trance. He commands her again to leave his office. Outside, Cosette angrily grits her teeth, glaring at the rain through the window, and grudgingly utters the goddess's name, Beatrix. Meanwhile, in her room, Kiera wonders why the sudden downpour stopped just as suddenly. Zike, who is with her, plays with the fox. He initially named it Erez, but Kiera suggests naming her Eri instead. Emily arrives, informing them that Cosette has been put on probation. Finally, Kiera feels free to enjoy herself without Cosette's presence. She decides to take Eri for a walk and encounters Arthur and Joseph on her way out. Joseph, remembering the night of the party, stutters as he greets Kiera. Sensing Joseph's awkwardness, Arthur suggests Kiera visit the marketplace to buy things for the fox. Of course, she can't go alone, so Arthur volunteers Joseph to escort her. Arthur, the best wingman. Awkward air fills the carriage as Joseph and Kiera travel to the marketplace. In Kiera's mind, she believes she must have done something weird at the party that made Joseph awkward around her. Meanwhile, Joseph thinks how shameless he is for having personal feelings for Kiera when he should only loyally serve her as a knight. They're unnecessarily being hard on themselves for different reasons. When they arrive at the market, people stare at them, recognizing Joseph's Parvis uniform and Kiera as the Lady of Parvis. Kiera drags Joseph by his hand and runs away from the gawking audience. Joseph's heart flutters. They visit a men's boutique to buy clothes so they won't attract attention with Joseph's uniform. The receptionist hysterically asks forgiveness after she mistakenly calls the two a couple and learns that she's dealing with the Lady of Parvis. Joseph immediately tries on different clothes, and everything looks so good on him. Nothing plain would work to hide him from the public eye. Gosh, he's really very handsome. It simply isn't right to do this to my heart, Joseph. Kiera looks for another outfit that is plainer. This makes Joseph think that she doesn't like any of the clothes he tried. Kiera makes a Freudian slip when she tells Joseph that the problem is that she likes everything too much. Joseph turns red as a tomato while Kiera starts to realize something. I love the chemistry of these two. Joseph wonders why Kiera brought all the clothes he tried in the boutique. Kiera tells Joseph to consider all the clothes she bought for him as a gift. But deep inside, Kiera thinks everything looks good on him and she wants to see Joseph more in casual outfits. She realizes that it is the first time that she has given a gift to Joseph and decides to show more care for him in the future. After visiting the boutique, Kiera and Joseph freely explore the marketplace. After they pass by a cafe, Kiera recalls when she and Erez met after visiting Lady Johanna. As if on cue, Erez shows up with his blinding smile. It is the festival season, and Erez happens to look around the market when he sees Kiera. Kiera introduces Joseph to Erez. A painfully tight grip meets Erez's hand as he and Joseph shake. Weird vibes fill the air like they're rivals or something. Erez notices the fox and tries to pet it, but the animal bites him. I pity his hands. Erez suggests getting a leash for Eri. Suddenly, Erez approaches Kiera in a dangerously close distance, like he always does, and reaches for Kiera's necklace. Joseph flinches. Joseph shoves Erez's hands away from Kiera and warns him to keep his distance from his lady. Behold, the Great Wall of Joseph. It turns out Erez only wants to magically turn Kiera's necklace into Aries' leash. The magical leash is invisibly connected to Kiera's necklace on the fox's collar. As they continue to roam around the market, bad energy lingers between Joseph and Erez. They pass by a stall, and the sales lady recruits them for a swordsmanship tournament. Kiera pushes Joseph and Erez to join the competition. The tournament begins between Joseph and Erez. Kiera thinks that Joseph has the upper hand since he's the captain of the knights. As the match begins, Kiera realizes that Erez can also wield the sword pretty well. However, Erez gets disqualified after he accidentally cuts off the referee's hair. In the end, Joseph wins, and Kiera gets all the prizes from the tournament. Joseph 1, Erez 0. Unsatisfied by the outcome, Erez suddenly brings up the time regression, but Kiera immediately interrupts Erez mid-sentence, saying this isn't the right place to discuss it. Suddenly, Erez grabs Kiera by the hips, and together they fly up into the sky. Joseph is left with Eri, wondering what just happened. Joseph 1, Erez 1. In the sky, Kiera can see the whole village and walk in the air thanks to Erez's magic. They end up on top of the clock tower, where Kiera narrates what happened during the rite at the temple and how the Duke reacted. Though Erez praises Kiera for putting Cosette in her place, he reminds her that there is something more important. Nothing will change if Kiera cannot manifest the elemental power ahead of Cosette. A wave of anxiety surges Kiera as she remembers how her previous life ended. Erez notices the change in Kiera's expression, so he tries consoling her, thinking he said the wrong thing. Kiera snaps out of the fear she is feeling as she recalls the elementals that Cosette summoned. She doubts that they are real and thinks that Cosette must have used a trick. Erez demonstrates to Kiera water magic, however it doesn't look exactly like what Cosette summoned on that fateful day. It lacks the oomph. Erez tells her not to worry and assures her that he can let her regress, time travel as many times if things end badly. Kiera thanks Erez for being there for her. Erez realizes how strong-willed Kiera is, and together they enjoy the view. Joseph 1, Erez 2. When the night falls, Kiera and Erez return to the palace with teleporting magic. Joseph immediately finds them, and tension fills the air just as immediately. Before it turns into a bloodbath, Kiera commands Erez to leave, and the blonde magician teleported right away. Once inside, Joseph expresses his worries when Erez suddenly flies away with Kiera and feels sorry for failing as her knight. Kiera comforts him by saying nothing bad happened. Kiera takes the chance to give Joseph a cake that's only available during the festival. She notices that Joseph is already back in his knight's uniform. Before parting ways, Kiera reminds Joseph to wear the clothes she bought him every once in a while because he looks so great in them. Joseph blushes, remembering he received a lot of presents from Kiera. Joseph 2, Erez 2. Meanwhile, Cosette seems sick in her room and appears to be talking with an unseen entity. She mumbles how weak her body is, as if it isn't originally hers. I've got a feeling this isn't her real body, like something has possessed a girl's body. The voice reminds Cosette that her power is causing her body to weaken, recalling the time she tried manipulating the Duke. Cosette realizes that as long as Beatrix remains strong, she cannot use her powers freely. Although Cosette still has many cards left under her sleeves, if nothing works, she will use the method. For now, Cosette waits for the right time to strike. The next morning, Kiera is greeted by her servants in an excellent mood. Emily and Rose also feel relieved and free as Cosette is being grounded. Kiera recalls how she spent yesterday with the two guys and realizes that she got a lot closer to Erez than when they first met. Remembering her conversation with Erez regarding her situation, she immediately gets ready to research in the library. While preparing, Zeke asks if he can come with her, and they go to the Imperial Library together. Bella and Michael greet them at the gate, and before parting ways, Bella invites Kiera to a picnic party. As Kiera begins her research, she recalls the prophecy of the Elementalist. House Parvis was given a prophecy that only one Elementalist would be born in the next generation, and then Cosette suddenly appeared. In her past life, Cosette reveals that Kiera was the real daughter of the Duke before she was executed. Kiera ponders about the elementals Cosette summoned and compares it to what Erez showed her. It was different. She is sure that Cosette summoned real elementals. She suddenly remembers the story of the resonance between sisters, and Rowena Weinberg, the Duke's first wife. It is said that Rowena was pregnant when she was assassinated, and the fetus was also found dead. But if turned out alive, in horror, Kiera suspects Cosette must be her real half-sister. The prophecy has never failed before, so Kiera thinks that there could be an error in its interpretation. In the midst of her deep thoughts, ZK interrupts her and shows her a book. ZK hands Kiera a fairy tale book that his nanny used to read to him when he was younger. The story of the first elementalist goes like this. Once upon a time, a girl lived in a very chaotic world where humanity was at war with the demon race. The forest burned, and the land became barren as the war went on. The girl wished to stop the war, so she set out on a journey to find the goddess. As she continued walking, she reached a large lake and stopped to relieve her thirst. As she lowered her head, water drops rose from the lake, and the goddess appeared before her. The goddess listened to the girl's story and held out her hand towards the girl. The lake began to swirl and emitted bright light. The elementals spread out in all directions like shooting stars. As the light from the elementals touched the demons, they melted away. The leader of the demons, Ragabak, retreated back to the demonic world, and the war finally ended. The elementals brought back the life of the burned forest and healed the barren land. A large mirror was formed to protect the human world from an attack by demons. They gave humans the elemental crystal and promised their safety, and the world became peaceful. After reading the story, ZK asks Kiera if she will also protect him like the girl in the story when she finally becomes the elementalist. Warmth fills Kiera's heart. Kiera returns to the palace and immediately barges inside Cosette's rooms to check her condition. Surprisingly, Cosette is not faking and is actually sick. But Kiera isn't worried about Cosette. She is there to offer Cosette a solution to their situation. Kiera tells Cosette that she looked into her mother's background and thinks that they could both be the Duke's real daughter. Kiera believes that the prophecy is wrongly interpreted and proposes to Cosette that if they were both real daughters of the Duke, they should work together to manifest the elemental power at the same time. She is giving Cosette a last chance to be part of the Parvis house by doing the resonance of two sisters. She also tells Cosette that she got the elemental crystal of Beatrix and offers her to use it together. Kiera shows Cosette the crystal and makes her choose whether to work with her or lose the chance to use the crystal altogether. Suddenly, Cosette tackles Kiera and grabs the elemental crystal for herself. But as she holds the crystal, it breaks and shatters into pieces. Cosette realizes that it is just glass and Kiera has fooled her. Kiera is not so dumb to show Cosette the real crystal after all. She maybe doesn't have the real crystal at all. Now, Cosette has revealed her true colors and what she truly wants. Kiera now knows that the elemental crystal is more important to Cosette than anything else. She thanks Cosette for making her intentions clear. Cosette realizes how reckless she is after being fooled by a fake crystal. Now, Kiera is the one controlling the game. In a fit of rage, she attacks Kiera. However, Kiera catches her hand and deflects her attack. Kiera pushes Cosette to the ground, saying that she will not allow Cosette to strike her once more. Kiera bids her farewell and wishes her luck in facing things on her own. Before leaving, Kiera taunts Cosette by mentioning that she'll be accepting Princess Bella's picnic invitation while Cosette remains on probation. She then threatens to inform everyone about Cosette's situation. On her way back to her room, Kiera thinks about Cosette's goal after seeing how she reacted earlier. She realizes that Cosette's goal has something to do with the elemental crystal, and it is connected to the story of the first elementalist. Cosette wants the crystal for one of two purposes, either to extend the contract between humans and elementals or destroy it. Once the crystal is destroyed, the contact will end. Then the barrier that protects humanity from the demonic will break and the world will be thrown into chaos. And no normal person would do that. Kiera suspects that after Rowena and her unborn child died, the Count of Weinberg resented the Parvises and Kiera's grandfather. He would do anything to bring downfall to both families, even using forbidden dark magic to enter a contract with a demon. Cosette is Rowena Weinberg's real daughter, revived through dark magic to infiltrate the Parvis family and destroy the elemental crystal, bringing back the age of the demons. Ha! I knew something possessed Cosette's body. No wonder she's so creepy. Cosette is, in fact, Kiera's real half-sister. The day of the picnic arrives, and as the ladies await Bella's entrance, they delight in the delicious pastries, showering them with praise. Kiera joins in, savoring every bite alongside them. A few minutes later, Bella arrives at the picnic, warmly thanking everyone for coming to the meeting about the hunting competition, which brings smiles all around. One lady leans in to whisper about Cosette's absence, and Kiera explains that Cosette is still on probation, and the Grand Duke refused her request for permission. The news leaves the other ladies wide-eyed with curiosity, eager to know what Cosette did to deserve such a punishment. Soon, their conversation drifts to the beauty of the garden's roses, and some confess their wish to receive roses from a gentleman. This prompts one lady to tease Kiera, recalling how she saw her with a dashing knight at the last festival, and asking if romance is in the air. Another lady quickly chimes in, mentioning she spotted Kiera with a charming blonde-haired wizard, insisting they make a striking pair. With this revelation, the ladies launch into a spirited debate. Is the ideal lover a knight brimming with dignity, or a wizard whose magic rivals any sword? These ladies truly know how to stir up excitement! Meanwhile, Kiera only sits there and listens to the debate, nodding at the comments the ladies share, since she has already experienced both with Erez and Joseph. A lady turns to Kiera and asks who she'll pick, putting her in a hot seat. Noticing this, Bella announces she wants to talk to Kiera alone, and Kiera sighs in relief. With the others gone, Bella turns to Kiera and asks her directly for her answer to the lady's earlier question. To appear considerate, Bella crosses her arms and steps back, declaring she is giving Kiera space because the crowd could have made her feel pressured. As the conversation continues, Bella admits she originally believed Kiera joined the gathering just to seek marriage, but now, watching Kiera hesitate before answering, she suspects there is more to Kiera's motives. When Kiera pauses, Bella's hopeful smile fades, and she looks down, realizing she may have imagined their growing closeness. Picking up on Bella's disappointment, Kiera eventually confides that she only used marriage as an excuse to get the Grand Duke's approval to attend events. In response, Bella is amused by Kiera's unconventional thinking and teases that Kiera seems interested in dating. Kiera admits she is, but the idea of marrying someone and spending her whole life with them feels frightening. Bella sighs that Kiera is lucky to have the freedom to choose, while her own marriage is tied to matters of state. Poor Bella. Later that night, Kiera finds herself reflecting on how she once loved someone unworthy in her past life. Now, as she learns to put herself first, she compares her feelings for Erez and Joseph, and a blush creeps onto her cheeks. Well, 2 is better than 1, right? The next day, the young master grows anxious after noticing Kiera behaving distractedly, lost in her own thoughts. He asks Rose and Arthur if they know what is troubling Kiera, but both appear bewildered, as unsure as he is. It is touching to see how genuinely concerned the young master is for his sister. Determined to help, the young master asks them to keep a close eye on Kiera and report back on anything they discover that might be troubling her. Both agree to his request. Later that day, as part of this watchfulness, Arthur notices Kiera gazing out the window and gently reminds her about her training. Startled, Kiera realizes she has completely forgotten her schedule. Now, truly worried, Arthur notes this is unusual. Kiera never misses appointments. When Kiera arrives at the training ground moments later, she greets Joseph with a cheerful smile and apologizes shyly for being late. Joseph reassures her that it is no trouble. As their conversation falters, an awkward silence settles, catching Arthur's watchful eye. Suddenly, he suspects that Kiera and Joseph might be developing feelings for each other after what happened in the forest. Arthur grins to himself, thinking that perhaps this budding affection explains Kiera's recent change in behavior. After training, Rose helps Kiera settle in and encourages her to rest. She offers to bring Kiera some refreshments to help her unwind, and Kiera gratefully accepts. As Kiera waits for Rose, a sudden commotion outside her room catches her attention. Curious, she peeks out and is startled to find Erez sprawled on the floor after colliding with Rose. Erez urgently pleads with Kiera to help him escape the guards and the Grand Duke, who are hot on his heels. Sure enough, minutes later, the Grand Duke arrives with the guards and orders them to seize Erez for trespassing. Erez tries to talk his way out, insisting that Kiera invited him. Kiera quickly backs up his story, explaining to the skeptical Grand Duke that she did invite Erez and that he did not need an escort to her office, especially since she had just returned from training and had no time to greet him. With a reluctant nod, the Grand Duke accepts their explanation and leaves them alone. Alone in the room, Kiera asks Erez why he suddenly visited. Thus, Erez straightforwardly tells Kiera that he is worried about her, since they only saw each other at the last ball, and he thinks she might be avoiding him. Hearing this, Kiera quickly denies this and explains that she has been busy lately. Erez stands his ground and steps closer to Kiera, declaring with determination that he will visit her often. Flustered, Kiera instinctively moves away, her cheeks warming. Meanwhile, Rose peeks through the doorway, delighted by the scene unfolding between Kiera and Erez. Later, Rose and Arthur cross paths and excitedly discuss the possibility that Kiera is in love, which would explain her recent changes. Their innocent enthusiasm is almost comical, especially since neither realizes they are each thinking of a different man. When Rose and Arthur share their news, Zike is thunderstruck at the thought of his sister falling in love. Initially, he bursts out laughing, convinced they're joking. But as Rose and Arthur insist, Zike becomes confused, struggling to imagine his sister marrying without any prior hint. Rose whispers to Zike that Kiera's strange behavior could mean she's hiding a secret romance. Rose then lights up and swoons over the memory of Kiera's sweet moment with Erez. Meanwhile, Arthur quietly recalls overhearing Kiera's soft-spoken conversation with Joseph. Neither of them realizes they are discussing two different men, setting the stage for a delightful tangle. The next morning, a maid tells Kiera that Zike is too unwell to join the hunting competition. Concerned, Kiera resolves to visit her brother. As Kiera steps outside, she is taken aback to find Cosette waiting for her. Realization strikes. Cosette's probation has ended, and she is once again joining the journey. Cosette greets them brightly and innocently asks why Kiera never visited her. With a sly smile, Kiera remarks that it would hardly be proper for the lady of the house to visit someone who is guilty, leaving Cosette flustered and embarrassed. Cosette was humiliated. Moments later, the Grand Duke appears and announces it is time to set off. Cosette quickly hurries to the carriage, but her excitement fades when she realizes that neither Kiera nor the Grand Duke will be traveling inside with her. As soon as they arrived, Joseph hurried over, offered to take their horse, and told them which room was theirs. Cosette burst out, nearly singing with excitement at sharing a room with Kiera. Kiera shot her a look and reminded her it was a rule, since each noble family only got 2 rooms. Looks like Cosette's bubbly display is starting to grate on Kiera's nerves. On the way to the tent, Cosette noticed everyone's stares and secretly wondered if they found her beautiful. Kiera quickly shattered her illusion, pointing out that everyone stared because Cosette had screamed. Cosette had a comeback ready, but paused and smirked when she saw a man beside Kiera. Kiera noticed the man too. It was Erez. He introduced himself to Cosette. When she learned he was a wizard, she turned on the charm, pleading with him to teach her magic. Erez agreed, though he seemed hesitant. Kiera watched with a curious glint in her eye. Afterward, once Cosette left, Kiera noted the handshake lasted longer than usual. Erez grinned and asked if she was jealous, which she quickly denied. The Grand Duke interrupted, demanding why Erez was at the hunting grounds. Erez answered that he was there because he planned to get married soon. The Grand Duke bristled and argued, but Erez stood his ground. Kiera saw the growing attention on their argument and slipped away before anyone else could get involved. Later, Kiera finds Bella, and after a brief exchange, says her goodbyes. Bella wishes her luck in the upcoming hunting competition. As they walk away, Kiera's grandfather remarks on how close she seems to Bella. Kiera quickly assures him that her friendship with Bella is genuine, with no hidden motives or family interests involved. Shortly afterward, near the edge of the forest, Cosette rushes over to Kiera, feigning innocence as she announces her intention to join the hunting competition. Kiera's grandfather frowns at Cosette's plan, prompting Kiera to suggest he remain behind and send his knight instead. He refuses, insisting on staying by Kiera's side. Deep in the forest, a hush falls over the group as everyone waits for Kiera to take her shot. When she strikes the deer flawlessly, cheers erupt. Joseph offers to retrieve the deer, but Kiera stops him, pointing out that no one has yet tried her hand with the bow. Attention shifts to Cosette, who dons an innocent mask as she readies her bow. She hesitates, startled by a gentleman's comment on her skilled posture. Kiera, surprised, recognizes Cosette's search for an excuse to avoid the challenge. Cosette claims her uncle once taught her, but as she raises the bow, she suddenly collapses and sobs to Kiera, insisting she cannot bring herself to hurt anything. Why is she breaking down now? Such a drama queen. Cosette continues, pointing out that since Kiera already struck down the mother deer, she cannot bring herself to harm its fawn. The words trigger memories in Kiera, recalling how Cosette twisted situations to her advantage, especially when she reminded everyone of the Marquis's role in her mother's death. Desperate to change events, Kiera searches for a solution but is paralyzed, unable to act. As Kiera hesitates, Erez suddenly arrives and quickly shoots the young deer. He explains his actions, claiming he mistook the fawn's presence for a dragon before deciding to act anyway. Without missing a beat, he teases Cosette for her gentle heart and suggests she should rest, doubting she has the energy to continue the competition. Kiera promptly tells Joseph and Arthur to escort Cosette back to the tent, hoping Cosette can recover her composure after Erez's interruption. As she leaves, Cosette is left stewing in disappointment as her scheme unravels. Honestly, Cosette had this coming. She deserves this. With Cosette and the others gone, a new tension lingers. The Marquis tries to approach Kiera, but she avoids him, having no intention of speaking yet. Noticing this, Erez invites her to join him for a walk, shifting the focus away from the tense moment. Alone, Kiera asks Erez how he became skilled at archery. He admits to enchanting the arrow so it would strike the deer. Kiera scolds him, reminding him that magic is forbidden, but Erez laughs, insisting he wasn't showing off. Then, Erez notices Kiera's broken earring. Kiera notices a crack in her earrings, prompting Erez to step closer and examine them. Feeling self-conscious under his gaze, she playfully asks if he did a sloppy job making them. Erez is momentarily annoyed, but soon offers to fix the earrings with a touch of magic. As he works, Kiera confides that she wears them every day because he gave them to her, and since the regression, he's the only person she truly trusts. Afterward, Kiera says goodbye, eager to return to the competition. Erez tells her he'll be resting in the barracks, prompting Kiera to ask why he entered the competition in the first place. With a sly smile, he admits he just wanted to say hello to someone. Oh, Erez, you really are a flirt! In the days that follow, Kiera throws herself into the competition, while Cosette isolates herself in her tent, shunned by the other nobles after the incident. At the end of the competition, a lively party is held. Bella and Kiera greet each other warmly, but as they chat, a sudden commotion erupts. They look up in shock to see a dragon soaring above them. Panic sweeps the crowd as the dragon appears, sending everyone fleeing. Kiera scans the chaos and spots the dragon poised to strike at Bella. Without hesitation, she yanks Bella to safety and shields her. Joseph steps forward to confront the beast, buying them precious seconds to escape. Once away from the dragon, Kiera realizes she must find the hidden weapon. She dashes off to search, calling for Joseph to protect Bella. Kiera spots the tent where the weapon is kept, but it collapses. Cosette emerges from the wreckage, clutching the weapon. Kiera races toward her, but Cosette refuses to let go, gripping it tighter. Kiera tries to explain the danger, but Cosette just smirks and shouts that she will not give up the weapon. Spotting the dragon looming behind Kiera, Cosette flashes a wicked smile and shoves her straight toward the beast. And taken aback, she helplessly pushes towards the dragon, but luckily, the Grand Duke arrives just in time to catch and pull her away from the monster. Cosette, you monster! Once she regains her composure, Kiera searches for the Grand Duke and is stunned to find him collapsed on the ground. He had shielded her from harm, though she felt nothing thanks to Erez's protection spell. Joseph soon appears, kneeling beside the still unconscious Grand Duke as guards close in to battle the monster. In the aftermath, Bella and His Majesty survey the chaos, their concern for Kiera and the still unconscious Grand Duke evident. They are astonished that the Grand Duke instinctively rushed to save Kiera before anyone else, even Cosette. That night, after the doctors examine the Grand Duke, they remain baffled. His vital signs are normal, yet he will not wake. They assure Kiera they will check on him again in the morning. Left alone, Kiera replays the image of the Grand Duke's frightened face as he races to catch her. She's bewildered by his actions. He has always been distant, yet tonight he risked everything for her. If only she could find the courage to speak openly with her father. Moments later, Erez bursts through the door and hurries to Kiera's side, anxiously inspecting her for injuries. When he finds her unharmed, he sinks to the floor in relief. Erez, you are making it hard not to fall for you. What a green flag! Once he regains his composure, Erez asks Kiera about the Grand Duke. She tells him the Grand Duke's vitals are stable, though he remains unconscious. Sensing the worry etched on Kiera's face, Erez gently reassures her that things will work out in time and she need not fret. Kiera quickly denies any concern for the Grand Duke, insisting she is not worried. Erez, however, remains unconvinced. Her expression betrays a genuine care she tries to hide. Kiera mentions she will be heading back to the temple, and Erez immediately offers to accompany her, explaining he wants to research some theories on basic recovery magic. He assures her again that she has nothing to worry about. While Erez reassures her, his genuine concern for her is consistently evident. Kiera denies it once more, but admits the Grand Duke has been acting out of character lately. She recalls the moment he rushed to save her from the monster, a gesture so unlike him that it left her unsettled, reinforcing her internal conflict. Erez listens, then asks if Kiera remembers a time when the Duke had to choose between her and Cosette. Kiera shakes her head, unable to recall such an event. She never even attended the hunting competition he mentions. To her, Erez's suggestion sounds absurd. Erez explains that while people believe they act rationally, the truth is often the opposite. He suggests that after Kiera's regression, even the smallest shift in emotion could ripple out and change everything. Erez's tone turns serious as he confides in Kiera that the Grand Duke might be the second person capable of turning back time. Gosh, if only the Duke had retained his memories, he could have mended his bond with her and exposed the impostor at once. A month after Kiera's death in a previous life, the Grand Duke brings grim news to the king. The spirit user is gone, and the spirit stone has vanished without a trace. Enraged, the king demands that the Grand Duke recover the missing stone and resolve the crisis at once. After the meeting, the Grand Duke returns to his study and immerses himself in official documents, pushing himself to exhaustion. His loyal butler notices how the Grand Duke's long hours and skipped meals are affecting his health. The Grand Duke brushes off any concern, insisting he is perfectly fine, and urges the butler to leave him to his work. As he sorts through paperwork, the Grand Duke finds his thoughts drifting to Kiera's face. He clenches his fists and forces his attention back to work, reminding himself sternly that Kiera was not truly his child, but quickly pushes those thoughts aside to avoid further distraction. Years pass and war ignites against the demons. The empire begins to collapse, crops wither, and people perish like autumn leaves. Each day brings renewed loss as the imperial army faces defeat after defeat, and the protective barriers that once contained the demons gradually erode, unleashing havoc. Later, in the midst of battle, the Grand Duke is stunned to encounter Cosette. She greets him with a cold smirk and delivers a chilling revelation. His real daughter was killed. The news leaves the Grand Duke reeling. Well, the Grand Duke was stupid in his past life. Cosette begins to unravel the origins of all this suffering. It all started with the tragic death of Rowena Weinberg, who endured cruelty at the hands of Simon Edinburgh. As Rowena fled from the tormentors, she was racked with pain and suffered a miscarriage, dying with a curse on the entire family and everyone who had harmed her and her unborn child. But Rowena's end was not swift. With her last strength, she summoned Ragabok, one of the 13 demons of hell. She struck a desperate bargain, offering her soul in exchange for vengeance upon those who had wronged her, and the demon agreed. As she slipped into unconsciousness, the demon asked for her child's name. That is how Cosette came into existence. Upon hearing this, the Grand Duke is stunned, unable to believe how thoroughly Cosette deceived him. A deception that unleashed suffering and destruction across the world. Cosette approaches the Grand Duke and tells him he does not deserve an easy death. She wants him to endure the consequences of his actions, driven by her determination to make him suffer as retribution for his part in her and her mother's pain. Despair is etched across the Grand Duke's face. He is so overcome with hopelessness that he cannot speak. Seeing this, Cosette appears satisfied. Honestly, I despise the Duke even more than Rowena. He even erased his memory at present, maybe because of guilt. Ludwig lies helplessly on his blood-stained bed as unbearable pain spreads across his entire body. With death slowly creeping closer, he finally begins accepting the miserable end waiting for him. But the moment he closes his eyes, he suddenly hears Ziegehart's voice calling out to him. Ludwig immediately finds himself standing before his dead son, whose spirit remains trapped inside a dark prison cell. Despair fills Ludwig's face as he apologizes for failing as a father. However, Ziegehart only stares back coldly, his bitterness and hatred painfully obvious as he rejects Ludwig completely, even wishing to never see him again in the afterlife. Ludwig definitely deserves it by being a selfish father, even killing his own children. Tuh. As Ziegehart disappears behind the prison bars, Ludwig desperately tries to reach him, only for a violent headache to suddenly strike him. Amidst the pain, a mysterious voice asks if he desires another chance to change everything. Ludwig abruptly awakens and comes face to face with a strange man offering him the opportunity to return to the past. However, such power comes with a terrifying price: Ludwig's soul. Although doubtful at first, Ludwig listens as the man explains that changing the past could alter fate itself, though the outcome remains uncertain. Realizing this may be his only chance to fix his regrets, Ludwig finally accepts the dangerous deal without hesitation. This man is beyond desperate at this point. As the mysterious man casts his magic, Ludwig soon awakens back in bed as if nothing had happened. The moment Ludwig awakens in the past, he immediately rushes through the mansion searching for Kiera, completely ignoring the servants trying to stop him. The second he finds her, he tightly pulls her into his arms while desperately apologizing. Soon, the two sit together for tea as Ludwig explains the memories haunting him. Although he can no longer remember the mysterious man clearly, he vividly recalls the ruined future awaiting them. The Empire consumed by chaos, countless deaths, and a world where Kiera tragically dies. Believing it was all some horrific nightmare, Ludwig still cannot erase the guilt crushing him. Kiera, however, is left completely shaken by his story, realizing Ludwig may have returned to the past just like her. Seeing him blame himself for failing his children catches her off guard, especially when he openly admits he wants another chance to become a better father, even if she never forgives him. If this guy were my father, I wouldn't dare to forgive him too easily. But for Kiera, the pain from the past does not disappear so easily. As painful memories resurface, she instinctively pulls her hand away from him after a brief silence. Despite always longing for her father's affection, forgiveness is not something she can give overnight. Huh, serves him right. Still, Kiera understands Ludwig's influence may become crucial when confronting Cosette in the future. And deep down, she is relieved that this time her father chooses to stay by her side. As Kiera continues worrying over Cosette's next move, Ludwig suddenly declares that he plans to send Cosette away from the estate entirely. After everything he witnessed in the previous timeline, he can no longer ignore the danger surrounding her. The memories of Kiera's tragic death and the Empire's destruction still haunt him deeply. Thank God! It took this man way too long to finally realize Cosette is evil! Even though the truth behind the real princess remains uncertain, Ludwig firmly believes Kiera is his true daughter. Evidence no longer matters to him after remembering the future he lost. More than anything, he simply wants to keep Kiera safe from Cosette at all costs. Kiera is left completely stunned by her father's sudden determination. Unable to process her emotions properly, she quietly excuses herself before retreating to her room. The moment the door closes behind her, tears finally begin falling from her eyes. Kiera waiting this long just to hear her father chose her hurts so much, even for me. Elsewhere, Rose quickly searches for Erez to inform him that Ludwig has finally awakened. After hearing the news, Erez immediately wakes his companion to tell him the situation. However, unlike Erez's urgency, the other wizard responds far too calmly for someone involved in such a massive situation. Erez can only scold him in disbelief, especially considering he was recently reckless enough to summon a dragon himself. Neil grumbles over Erez's lack of gratitude, insisting he only caused all that chaos to help him win his bet against Kiera. Still, he remains annoyed that his spell summoned a dragon instead of something harmless like a goblin. How the hell did you mistake summoning a dragon with a weak goblin? Meanwhile, Erez internally regrets ever telling Neil about his competition with Kiera. In his frustration, he accidentally refers to Kiera as a princess, immediately catching Neil's attention. Neil quickly notices how differently Erez has started acting around her. Even Erez finds himself confused, wondering when these unfamiliar feelings toward Kiera first began. For someone so smart and powerful, he is so blind with his feelings. Not long after, Erez and Neil meet with Kiera. Neil casually introduces himself as the mage responsible for summoning the dragon, acting far too carefree despite the disaster he caused among the nobles. Kiera, however, is clearly not amused and slams a dagger onto the table, instantly killing the mood. Erez apologizes sincerely, explaining he never expected their bet to spiral into such chaos. Since the incident was ultimately caused by Neil, Kiera decides the mage tower should take responsibility instead. Hearing that, both mages fall silent. Still, noticing how guilty Erez feels, Kiera eventually lets the matter slide to maintain good relations with the mage tower, though she still expects them to cooperate with her requests. Later, outside the palace, Neil continues teasing Erez while he casts magic, amused at how obsessed his friend has become with Kiera. Erez, completely fed up, angrily shoos him away. Their friendship is honestly chaos mixed with comedy at this point. The next morning, maids suddenly enter Cosette's room and begin packing all her belongings. Furious at being ignored, Cosette soon learns Ludwig personally ordered her removal from the palace. She desperately runs to Ludwig, but he harshly calls out every problem she caused, even reminding her how Kiera nearly died during the hunting tournament because of her. Seeing Ludwig finally stop defending Cosette is so satisfying. Cosette tries manipulating him once again. Terrifying visions suddenly overwhelm her, leaving her frozen in fear. With no other option left, she is eventually forced to leave the Imperial Palace. Kiera quietly watches Cosette's carriage disappear, still shocked by Ludwig's sudden change. Soon after, Zikehart, Joseph, and the knights burst into her room, celebrating Cosette's departure. Seeing everyone genuinely happy for her, Kiera cannot help but smile too. Even Ludwig hadn't changed. At least our girl is surrounded by people who truly care for her. On a bright day, Kiera and Zikehart enjoy a picnic to celebrate Cosette finally leaving the palace. Although Zikehart complains that the occasion deserves a much grander celebration, he happily spends time with his sister anyway. However, his curiosity soon takes over as he suddenly asks whether Kiera has been seeing someone. Before Kiera can properly avoid the question, Joseph arrives to return Aries' toy. An unexpectedly awkward atmosphere forms between Kiera and Joseph, especially as Joseph shyly fixes the leaves caught in his hair. Zikehart quickly notices the strange tension and immediately assumes the two are dating. This boy really wasted no time playing the protective brother. Both Kiera and Joseph instantly become flustered, with Kiera hurriedly denying the misunderstanding. But seeing Joseph freeze up completely, red-faced, Zikehart realizes his feelings are genuine and quietly threatens him not to hurt Kiera. The tense moment only breaks when Kiera throws Aries' toy away, causing Zikehart to chase after him. Left alone, Kiera awkwardly apologizes, insisting romance between a knight and a princess is impossible. Joseph, however, admits it may not be that impossible after all, before quickly fleeing in embarrassment, desperately trying to calm his racing heart. Sorry, Joseph, but I'm Team Erez. Erez, go get your girl! Joseph's words continue lingering in Kiera's mind, leaving her unexpectedly flustered. Before she can sort out her feelings, a strange letter suddenly flies toward her through the wind. Inside, she discovers a mysterious gem that activates with a bright flash, revealing Neil and Erez through a communication spell. Neil may be odd, but I think he could be more powerful than Erez himself, though. Neil excitedly explains that the gem is a communication stone he personally created, teasing Kiera by calling her his future sister-in-law, before immediately getting smacked by Erez. Erez then awkwardly explains they gifted the stone as an apology for the dragon incident. Although Kiera still feels conflicted about the chaos they caused, Neil continues exposing Erez's obvious feelings toward her until Erez nearly loses his patience. Before things worsen further, Neil abruptly ends the call, while happily stirring more embarrassment behind. I love this guy. He truly wakes up every day choosing trouble. Kiera cannot help smiling afterward, touched by Erez's thoughtfulness. Soon, Zegehart finally returns, carrying Eri after chasing him around, forcing the siblings to head back to the palace. Meanwhile, Cosette arrives back at the county as rumors quickly spread regarding her sudden return. Joshua soon appears, dismissing the servants before confronting Cosette himself, clearly furious about the entire situation. Once alone inside his office, Joshua immediately vents his frustration toward Cosette, demanding answers after she was personally thrown out by Ludwig. He cannot understand how their carefully planned scheme fell apart so badly. Cosette, however, responds coldly, claiming their partnership is already over. In truth, she only cooperated this long to search for the Spirit Stone while Beatrice remained alive. Joshua refuses to back down and reminds her of the promise they made years ago when they first met. Back then, Cosette introduced herself as one of the 13 demons working as his sister's contractor. She proposed eliminating every Marquess, including the princess, to secure her future plans, while offering Joshua revenge for Rowena in return. All roads definitely lead to the devil. Gee, how did we not expect that she was actually a demon? Joshua only agreed under one condition. After killing the princess, Cosette would temporarily take her place until the next elementalist was born. Cosette accepted and even promised not to harm innocent people. But unknown to Joshua, Cosette never intended to honor that agreement from the start. Even now, she eerily reminds him that she has plans of her own beyond their deal. Despite failing to obtain the Spirit Stone, Cosette quickly begins thinking of another dark scheme. Every chapter with Cosette somehow gets more unsettling than the last. The next day, Ludwig, Kiera, and Zegehart sit together for dinner, though the atmosphere feels noticeably different. Zegehart quickly realizes something has changed between Kiera and Ludwig ever since Cosette was removed from the palace. Even the table feels less tense, which says a lot. Curious and unable to hold back, Zegehart tries to figure out what happened while he was sick during the hunting competition. As he fidgets, he accidentally drops his fork and freezes, expecting a harsh scolding. Instead, Ludwig calmly asks if he's alright and even hands him a new one. Zegehart becomes even more confused by his father's sudden gentleness, unsure if this is really the same man he knows. Oh, my poor baby! It's because of you have a lovable father now. Before the dinner continues, Robert suddenly rushes in with alarming news. Rowena's residence has exploded due to gunpowder. Kiera is immediately worried, but relieved to hear Rowena was not home, and only a few staff members were injured. Still uneasy, Kiera insists on going to check the situation herself. Ludwig initially hesitates, suspecting Cosette may be involved, but eventually allows her to go and send knights to accompany her for safety. Kiera travels with the knights, her mind heavy as she wonders what Cosette is planning next. When they arrive at Rowena's mansion, the tension spikes immediately. Cosette is already there waiting for them, greeting Kiera with an innocent smile that feels anything but harmless. Kiera and Cosette exchange cold greetings as soon as they meet at Johanna's residence. Kiera immediately questions why Cosette is present in her aunt's home. Is it just me, or is the tension already so sharp you can feel it through the screen? Cosette calmly claims she came out of concern after hearing about Johanna's accident, insisting she only wants to check on her and also be closer to Kiera. Kiera, however, is no longer fooled and silently concludes that Cosette is likely the one behind the explosion. Without hesitation, Kiera walks past her and bluntly points out that Ludwig's recent warmth toward her only strengthened her position. Cosette visibly panics, briefly turning back as if trying to confirm whether Kiera has uncovered her secret. Kiera then meets Johanna, and the two discuss the explosion while trying to understand what could have caused it. After getting permission, Kiera immediately begins investigating and heads towards Johanna's office. With help from the assistant, she retrieves documents about the origin of the gunpowder. When she asks about earlier discussions, she learns something unexpected. Cosette had offered to repair the mansion. That helpful gesture feels way too suspicious to ignore. Kiera starts piecing things together, realizing Cosette likely never cared about Johanna at all. Her actions feel calculated, and Kiera suspects there's another hidden goal behind everything. Moments later, Kiera leaves the office and approaches Joseph, suddenly asking him something unusual that immediately shifts the direction of her investigation. With Johanna's permission, Kiera and the Knights gather all the mansion workers together for questioning. Johanna dislikes the disturbance and trusts her staff, but Kiera firmly insists that they cannot rely on assumptions alone when investigating something this serious. Once everyone is assembled, Kiera begins interrogating the workers one by one. The staff quickly become anxious and beg not to be punished, but Kiera remains calm, quietly observing them while planning to draw out the hidden spy. 2 days pass in tense silence. As expected, Kiera's suspicion proves correct when the real spies eventually confess. The innocent workers are immediately released without consequences. Kiera is surprised to learn that all 3 spies were bribed into committing illegal acts. Joseph reports their full confession, explaining they were tasked with stealing the mansion's blueprints. Although the culprits are identified, there is still no solid evidence linking them directly to the main mastermind. Still, Kiera strongly suspects Cosette and Joshua are behind the scheme. Of course, every evil leads to the devil. Literally. Feeling the situation growing more complicated, Kiera decides to return to the palace to consult the magic tower and continues investigating the truth as the sun sets. Joseph, however, falls silent at the mention of Erez. Feeling unexpectedly jealous, he lightly tugs on Kiera's dress, subtly trying to stop her from meeting him. Joseph grows anxious when Kiera mentions meeting Erez, worrying he is not useful enough to stay by her side. Kiera quickly snaps him out of it and reassures him that her meeting with Erez is unrelated to the gunpowder case. Boy, you're kinda getting on my nerves. Still, Joseph insists on helping her directly. Kiera hesitates, briefly thinking about revealing her secret, but ultimately decides against it after remembering his past grief in the original timeline. That night, Kiera absent-mindedly touches the communication stone and accidentally activates it. Erez answers immediately, and after her apology, she tells him she plans to visit the Mage Tower soon. Erez notices her tired tone and questions her, leading Kiera to vent about Cosette. Their conversation continues until Erez reveals alarming news about Cosette possibly preparing to restart an ancient war. Suddenly, Erez is transported right next to Kiera. Both of them are shocked and embarrassed in their nightwear. He quickly covers her mouth before she can scream. Worst possible timing ever. Kiera immediately blushes after realizing just how close Erez is standing beside her and quickly pushes him away in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Erez looks equally flustered after suddenly being transported into her room while both of them are still dressed for bed. These two seriously cannot catch a break from awkward situations. Still, Kiera decides not to waste the opportunity and immediately shifts the conversation toward Cosette's suspicious actions. She explains her growing theory that Cosette may actually be her half-sister, and that the Weinberg family could be secretly working together with a demon behind the scenes. The two begin comparing everything they discovered so far, carefully piecing together the strange incidents connected to Cosette. Although Kiera still lacks concrete evidence, she admits she strongly believes Cosette herself may not even be human, especially considering the unnatural abilities and manipulations surrounding her. Honestly, Cosette stopped giving normal villain vibes ages ago. However, the moment Kiera mentions demons possessing powerful magic, Erez suddenly goes silent. A cold tension fills the room as her words linger in his mind. Realizing Kiera is dangerously close to uncovering the truth, Erez freezes, conflicted over whether he should finally reveal his secret. After several moments of heavy silence, Erez finally makes his decision. He calmly admits that demons truly exist, and that they often work alongside human contractors. Kiera immediately demands to know how he can speak about demons so confidently, only for Erez to reveal the shocking truth himself. He, too, is a demon. I'm sorry, what? He's a demon too? Now that reveal completely changes everything between them. Kiera instinctively backs away from Erez, fear immediately filling her eyes after hearing his confession. At that moment, everything suddenly starts making sense to her. The reason Erez possessed abilities beyond ordinary magic, the reason he managed to turn back time so easily, all of it traces back to one horrifying truth. He is a demon. The atmosphere shifted so fast here, it genuinely hurt. Erez quickly tries explaining himself, insisting not every demon is evil like Cosette. He desperately attempts to defend both himself and the existence of demons who choose not to harm humans. But Kiera, whose memories are filled with pain caused by demons, cannot bring herself to accept his words so easily. Overwhelmed by fear, anger, and betrayal, she forces Erez to leave her room. That reaction deeply wounds Erez. Frustrated and heartbroken, he reminds Kiera of the trust they built together and the promise they once made. To him, all their shared moments, investigations, and happy memories suddenly seem meaningless just because of what he is. Honestly, seeing Erez look that hurt was devastating after everything they went through together. Unable to endure it any longer, Erez finally teleports away, leaving Kiera alone in silence. The moment he disappears, Kiera's emotions completely crumble. She falls to her knees, torn between her hatred for demons and the bond she formed with Erez. For the first time, she seriously wonders if demons could truly be different from one another. Yet at the same time, another terrifying thought creeps into her mind. If Erez is a demon, should she eliminate him too? Before Kiera can sink deeper into her thoughts, she suddenly hears movement outside her balcony. Looking down, she sees Joseph climbing up toward her. The moment Kiera sees his familiar face, tears instantly well in her eyes. Without thinking, she rushes forward and tightly hugs him. Joseph arriving right when Kiera needed comfort the most honestly made this scene even more emotional. After that event, Kiera locked herself in her room, whilst a person had been sending letters to her every day. At the dining area, the Duke and Zike were worried about Kiera. They asked Rose to take Kiera shopping to make her feel better. Rose took Kiera shopping and did her best to cheer Kiera up. While shopping at a store, Rose noticed the earrings that Kiera was wearing, saying she must have really liked them. Kiera remembered that they were from Erez. Kiera couldn't believe that Erez was a demon, and still struggled to accept that fact because of how kind he was. She realized that she must have hurt his feelings that night. Suddenly, the princess greeted Kiera out of nowhere, shocking her. They sat down and talked about their preparations for the upcoming National Foundation Day. The princess talked about how the king wanted her to get married, so she asked Kiera if she already had someone in mind to marry. This question made Kiera's mood go down even more. The princess asked if they fought, but Kiera explained that that wasn't the case. She explained that it was because someone she trusted kept a big secret from her, and when he revealed that secret, it really messed up her mind. The princess noted that she must have really cared for him to get hurt like this. Kiera said that she had been avoiding him even though he kept sending letters. The princess told Kiera that he might not have betrayed her, but instead trusted her enough to tell her that secret. She encouraged her to fix their relationship if they still cared for each other, even just a little bit, saying that it might have been just a misunderstanding like what she and Kiera used to have. Thanks to her words, Kiera finally reorganized her thoughts. The two bid their farewell, and the princess rode her carriage. On the way home, they saw the Grand Duke's carriage at the gate, but Kiera was shocked by what she saw. It was Erez looking for her while the Duke was stopping him. He asked Kiera to let him talk with her and said that he wanted her to listen as the winner of their last bet. The Duke told him to stop, but Kiera told them to let him in. The guards released Erez and he followed Kiera. She told Erez to make it fast. Inside, Erez tried to explain again, but Kiera asked why he and the one possessing Cosette's body were able to enter the kingdom and if there were others. He said that only 3 demons escaped their realm, and Neil was one of them. This shocked Kiera, learning that Neil was also a demon, so Erez began explaining everything from the start. In their realm, they were ruled by 13 rulers who all had different opinions and beliefs. Not every monster was evil, as some only wanted peace. These differences caused a war to break out, making their realm chaotic. He explained that only the strongest monsters could become part of the 13 rulers, with Erez possessing time manipulation and Neil having memory manipulation. Unlike Cosette, who needed to take someone else's body, Erez did not need to because of Neil's help. He pretended to be the third son of a low noble so he could become a mage in the tower. Erez said he wanted to stay in the human realm because of human magic, sweets, and Kiera. He promised to protect the kingdom, then knelt in front of Kiera, held her hand, and asked her to let him help her reach her goal. He told her she could use him so he could remain by her side. Kiera explained that ever since she could remember, monsters were evil, and she had even died because of one. Those thoughts were in her mind when he confessed that night, so she was scared that she might have to fight someone she trusted. Because of that fear, she hurt him with her words. Kiera apologized for what she said and promised to never doubt him again. She then asked about the demon who had taken Cosette's body. He explained that Ragabok could manipulate human emotions and control people, but he admitted that he did not know her limitations. Even without using her powers, she could easily manipulate humans. He explained that demons could not always use their magic because of Beatrice's protection, and the same restriction applied to both him and Neil. Ragabok might not be able to use her full power because of those limitations, but they still needed to be careful. The reason she acted that way was because when the demons lost the war against humans, she also lost her position. Now she wanted to reclaim it through another war. Kiera asked how they could stop her, since in just half a year, Cosette would develop her elemental magic, making everyone believe she was the Duke's real daughter. Erez explained that Cosette would only disappear if she failed to complete her contract or if she were absorbed by a stronger demon. Erez added that Neil would not help them because he was only a bystander. Instead, they needed help from someone named AJ. Kiera asked who that was, and Erez explained that AJ was the strongest among the 13 rulers and would be a great ally if they were on their side, but they needed to go to the demon realm. This scared Kiera, but she asked how long it would take to travel there. Erez asked if she was serious, and Kiera replied that she had no choice, mentioning that Erez had said the demon realm was similar to the human realm. Erez said he needed time to prepare and to inform the other leaders, so he asked for a week. Kiera told him she would inform him once she found a good excuse to leave town. At Cosette's place, she was panicking because she could not contact those she had ordered to cause a fire at the Countess's mansion. She realized that it must be because of Kiera and grew worried, not knowing how much Kiera already knew about her. Overwhelmed with frustration, she told the maid to leave and began throwing things around her. Meanwhile, the prince and the duke were having a meeting for the upcoming National Foundation Day. The prince asked if everything was all right after what happened at the Weinberg mansion, but before the duke could answer, a guard came in shouting for the prince. He reported that a man claimed to be the lover of the late Grand Duchess. This shocked the duke even more, as the man confessed that he had killed Rowena Weinberg and that the Marquis had been threatening him. The duke slammed his hand down in anger, and the prince calmed him, saying it was only a claim for now. The duke then told the prince that he would be leaving, and the prince assured him that the matter would not be made public. As the prince watched the duke leave, he knew that even if the man's claims were false, they would still attract everyone's attention. At home, Kiera was shocked by the news the duke had told her. He knew it was a lie, but could not shake the thought that some people might still believe the claim. Kiera asked the duke if she could talk to her grandfather, determined to figure everything out. But the duke warned her that her grandfather might even resort to hurting his own granddaughter if necessary. She then asked her maid to prepare for her departure and wrote a letter to Erez postponing their travel. At Marquis Edinburgh's mansion, Kiera informed the Marquis about the claim, which angered him as he insisted it was impossible because he had always kept control over Kiera's mother. Kiera then asked about the murder of Rowena Weinberg, causing the Marquis to shout at her to be quiet. She explained that the man claimed the Duke had threatened him to keep their crime hidden, but the Duke believed there was no evidence left behind and was certain he would have known if his daughter had a secret lover. Kiera wonders if she could truly trust the Duke. The Duke promised to do everything in his power to get to the bottom of the matter, but Kiera informed him that a hearing would soon be held because Count Weinberg was supporting the man, and even if they requested a delay, it would likely be denied. Kiera then thought of the perfect family with enough power and reason to postpone the hearing. The Imperial family. At the palace, The prince was having trouble finding a way to stop the upcoming hearing between the two nobles who have a huge power in the kingdom, even though the king had ordered him to do so, because the kingdom's rules made it difficult. His only comfort was that the Marquis had been sending letters saying he also did not want the hearing to happen, but they still needed to convince the Count to postpone it. At the meeting, both the Marquis and the Count arrived, and the atmosphere was already suffocating. The Marquis began by saying that the National Foundation Day was an important event they needed to focus on to avoid creating a bad image for other countries. The prince added that the king shared the same wish, since both the Count and the Marquis were influential figures in the kingdom, and a conflict between them would surely ruin the event. The Marquis agreed with the imperial family's stance, but the Count provoked him, saying they were only afraid that everyone would learn the truth. The Marquis argued back, but the prince asked them to calm down. He then asked the Count if he could wait until after the event, assuring him that they would be free to proceed however they wished afterward. The Count thought of his sister with sorrowful eyes and finally agreed to their request. The prince thanked him for his consideration and dismissed them. As they left, the Marquis looked at the Count and smirked, feeling victorious. He later sent a letter informing Kiera of what had happened. Kiera was glad that it worked out, but wondered why the Count agreed so easily. She then thought about the things she still needed to finish and expressed her wish to meet the man who claimed to be her mother's lover and her biological father. On the night of the Foundation Day ball, the maids helped both Kiera and ZK prepare for the event. Outside, Kiera saw Joseph waiting for them in a dazzling suit. Go, Joseph! Joseph then asked for her hand and escorted them to the party. Kiera remembered the last time they saw each other and felt embarrassed about what she had done. At the banquet, Erez was with Daphne, and they greeted Kiera when she arrived. Daphne then took Kiera to see the princess, while ZK was called by other noble children, leaving Erez and Joseph together. Awkward. Erez asked why Joseph always looked like he hated him. Joseph replied that he could not prevent Kiera from seeing him, but he would surely protect her, especially if Erez was the cause of any harm. Erez then said that he would also protect Kiera because she was special. Suddenly, a yell was heard by everyone, and it was the Marquis arguing with the Count. Kiera stepped in and asked what was happening. The prince soon arrived and demanded an explanation for ruining the mood at the banquet. He asked the Count to explain why he broke his promise. The Count accused the Marquis in front of everyone of false accusations and of murdering his sister. The entire party was filled with confusion and questions about what was happening and why the Count was making such claims. The Count then stated that, as a Count, it was his right to request a hearing for his sister's murder. The prince wondered why the Count had betrayed him, especially during an important event. With no other choice, the prince agreed and asked for a better place for the hearing. ZK and Kiera then noticed Cosette panicking, looking as if she did not expect this at all. Kiera concluded that the Count and Cosette might have had a disagreement over the matter because they had different goals. At the hearing, the prince began by explaining the roles of the Count and Marquis. He then asked the Count to proceed and present his case. But before the Count could begin, the Duke barged into the room and quickly looked for Kiera. The Count then continued, explaining that the Marquis had sent his sister away for being infertile, but when she later had a child, he killed her to erase the evidence. This almost led to the death of her child, who turned out to be the only elementalist in the kingdom, the one capable of protecting them from demons, making the Marquis guilty of endangering humanity itself. That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think, Count Isaac? The Marquis fought back, but the prince allowed the Count to continue. The Count then called the man who claimed to have killed the sister. The Count then introduced the man who claimed to be Kiera's father, and the prince instructed him to begin his testimony. The man stated that 20 years ago, he had been in a relationship with an Edinburgh, but he did not know her true identity. When the Marquis learned of their relationship, he allegedly threatened him never to reveal it and ordered him to kill Rowena Weinberg. He claimed that he carried out Rowena's murder while she was pregnant, but he did not see a child and believed she may have sacrificed herself to protect it. The Count and the man mixed lies and truths to pressure the Marquis. They falsely claimed Kiera's mother had a lover, but they also relied on the fact that the Marquis had killed the Count's sister. The Count then asked the man to draw his escape route, and the prince requested the documents to confirm the map. He then asked to postpone the judgment while they searched for the records. While everyone was discussing the hearing, Cosette was furious that the Count had not informed her of his plan. Kiera approached her, and Cosette called Kiera's grandfather a murderer. Kiera replied that this did not prove the man was her father, and she knew that no matter what happened, she still held an advantage over Cosette. Cosette angrily left. "Show her, Kiera!" Later, the hearing resumed. A guard handed the records to the prince and reported the results. The prince stated that the results did not match and blamed the Count for his actions. What a twist! The Count checked the records himself and noticed that the man, Alexander, had written a different account from what he had said. He then looked at the Marquis and saw a grim expression. A month before the hearing, the Marquis had visited Alexander. He paid the guard to reveal Alexander's whereabouts and told him that while he might have protection from the guards, that protection did not extend to his family. Alexander understood what he needed to do and begged the Marquis to spare his family. At the hearing, the Count then asked for another investigation, but both the Marquis and Kiera pressured him, saying that because of his claims, he had wasted everyone's time and ruined the late Duchess's image. The prince then ordered the guards to arrest the Count, but he ran. Kiera thought he was trying to escape, but instead he ran straight toward the Marquis and stabbed him, sending everyone into a panic. After the event, both Kiera and Zike were startled by what had happened. Kiera told Zike not to worry because a doctor was already treating him, but in her mind, she knew it was dangerous. She then saw the doctor and asked for an update. The doctor said they had done their best, but he was still in danger and in a coma. Kiera felt dizzy upon hearing the news, but she knew she needed to do something. She asked to meet Count Weinberg, since the Count had accused her mother and tried to murder her grandfather. She asked Zike to stay there, and the prince, hearing her request, led them to the Count. Kiera asked the prince and the duke to stay behind. When she saw the Count, she tried to ask him questions, but she soon realized that the Count was already dead. He is not evil. He just loves his sister, poor Duke. The men asked Kiera what had happened, and she informed them that the Duke was already dead. They thought it might have been suicide, but Kiera knew something was off, so she questioned the guards. The guard looked nervous, so Kiera asked if they had done something to him. The guard insisted he had not done anything, but before Kiera arrived, he had allowed Cosette to meet the Count. I knew it was her! They asked how the guard could have done that without the prince's permission and questioned if he had taken a bribe. He explained that he had felt dazed when he met Cosette and somehow followed her orders without understanding why. Kiera remembered Erez's explanation about Cosette's magic. The prince then ordered the other guards to take him away and discipline him. He apologized and told Kiera that he would detain Cosette at home. Kiera realized that Cosette must have panicked, fearing the Count would leak information about her, and ended up killing him, even if it would make her a suspect. Joseph then barged into the room and said that something had happened to the Marquis. Kiera asked Zike what happened, but Zike did not know either. The Duke approached the Marquis, and the Marquis told him that Kiera was truly his daughter. Kiera tried to go to him, but the Duke blocked her, saying it was too late. At the funeral, everyone was talking about the deaths of both nobles, and many offered their condolences to Kiera. Poor Kiera and Zike! Joseph spoke to Kiera and asked about the investigation about the death of the Count. She said it might be ruled as suicide because of a lack of evidence, and the autopsy showed no cause of death besides biting his tongue, but she still believed Cosette had done something to the Count. Joseph apologized for her grandfather's death, but Kiera said it's not his fault. Joseph asked about Cosette's whereabouts. Kiera said she was being detained with many guards watching over her because of an order from the Crown Prince. Kiera then noted that since Cosette is trapped, this is her time to move, and that she needed to prepare for the upcoming war against the demons. At the house, Cosette was furious that the Count had made a move without her, leaving her no choice but to kill him. She had suffered damage from using her power to kill the Count because of the goddess's protection. Suddenly, a guard then announced that the Duke was coming. The Duke ordered everyone to look for any clues connecting the Count to the incident. Cosette was certain they would find nothing because there was nothing to find, but the Duke continued to persist. What do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!